Hey guys, how are you doing? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the late show. Welcome to the after show. It's so nice to see you. I've already dropped the link in the chat and I'm gonna pin it as well. So feel free to come on board. Feel free to join the panel. We already have some of our viewers. Super Pitchy, welcome. Eric L, welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. It's so nice to see you all. I was doing some thinking today and I had some free time earlier to put together a video on basically the idea of a Phoenix brand and how it can be done right and how a brand can actually pay respect to its own history, integrate some of the regional aspects, traditions, design clues into their models, and how they can, in fact, get things right as they are trying to restore and reorganize a particular manufacturer, as they're trying to revive a specific tradition of watchmaking. And I chose Lange and their particular relationship to the Dresden Opera House, where actually one of the ancestors of the late Walter Lange had taken part in designing and building the stage clock, right? So I'll share the link to that video in a little bit, but I just want to go through it with you. And you can see here, this is of course the Lange family house, actually, in Glashütte, which is now the headquarters for the brand. Hey, I want to welcome also people who are dropping in. Dirk Digler, hey man, nice to see you. Angelic Slayer, again, a lot of these people are very regular supporters of the show, so I want to recognize that. Night Diver, again, one of the first to drop by and say hi and join the panel. I really appreciate you. Mikey W. Pricks, thank you, or Pri, maybe, I don't know. What's up to you too? It's nice to see you here. DP, it's 5:01. Yes, sir, we're taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but I am patient and we'll get there eventually. Dirk says, that's cool, you got to partake. No. I was talking about Lange and how they're basically the great-grandfather and the great-great-grandfather of Walter Lange, who rebuilt the brand in the 90s with Günther Blümlein. His ancestors designed the stage clock in the opera house of Dresden. And this is that majestic structure, which is taken as an important example of the Dresden Baroque, but is actually quite an eclectic mix of various architectural styles, including Baroque, Renaissance, and some neoclassical elements as well. And essentially, they wanted to have a nice clock right above the stage that could prominently and legibly display the time. And Johann Christian Friedrich Gutkiss and his son-in-law, Ferdinand Adolf Lange, actually designed and built this clock at the time. And basically Gutkiss was the court watchmaker in Dresden at the time. Ferdinand Adolf Lange was his apprentice and son-in-law, which means that this is the great great-grandfather Gutkes and great-grandfather Ferdinand of Walter Lange, who then took part in reorganizing the brand in 1990s when they made a comeback in the wake of the German reunification. This is a model of that clock. It's a 5-minute clock. The hours are indicated in Roman numerals, and the minutes are indicated in Arabic numerals. And this is a picture of Günther Blümlein with the Lange 1, Lange 1. And there you can see in the middle Walter Lange, who was the member of the family and who passed already 5 years ago now. And basically, when they designed the Lange 1 in 1994 with that eclectic and asymmetric dial, they chose this date display specifically to take after that jumping clock on the stage. And then, of course, in the model called Zeitwerk, which was introduced in 2009, you have an even closer depiction, closer execution of the similar style, right, where you have everything this time displayed in Arabic numerals, and you have a precisely jumping hour and minute indicator, but you can certainly see how that took after the stage clock that was designed by Ferdinand Adolf Lange and his father-in-law. And of course, in their more recent, sportier and more dynamic model, Odysseus, we see a similar execution, this time in terms of a day-date function that can be adjusted by the pushers that also double up as crown guards. And just to reflect the stage clock again even closer, right at the top of the hour, basically you have single digits. So even in Lange 1 and Odysseus, when you have this oversized date window, basically for the first 10 days of the month, you have a single digit display, which has been somewhat criticized because supposedly it disturbs the balance, but it's one of those aspects where the brand actually took a very specific design element and reiterated it in their more recent horological creations. And there you can see how that stage clock looks right over the stage, and as part of this beautiful architectural and theatrical setting of the opera. Upvote. Super Pitchy reminds everyone to upvote. Mikey W. Prix said it right too. Which one was the right one? First one or the second one? But anyway, I appreciate having you. Anyone know if Mike got his root beer? He did. He did, and he's never gonna show it to you, so you can suck it. Mikey W. Prix, AC3 can't read. It's okay. That's that's part of the shtick now. So you kind of have to deal with it at this point. I think Tudors sell a root beer. But speaking of root beers, I didn't mean to wear it today necessarily for this reason, because it was Mikey Root Beer Day. But And I also know that he's not really interested in a vintage root beer or the Tudor root beer for that matter. But I wore my root beer today. I want to put it back to its two-tone Jubilee bracelet, but for now, I wanted to keep it for a couple of more days, maybe on this leather band. And I think I will bring out the two-tone bicolor bezel insert now that the weather is getting a little better and sun is shining. I like changing things up as seasons cycle. Yeah, I think, you know, it's I sometimes find in watches the kind of kick and joy I need when I get a little bit depressed when the seasons turn. And we can't really enjoy that. We can't really feel that in Los Angeles. I do miss that a little bit. I do miss being on the East Coast where we had all 4 seasons. I appreciate that. But hey, anyway, it's all cool. But I love changing things around with watches to reflect somehow my mood, the time of the year. It's a great outlet. Dirk says, Lord, you ooze class, man. Keep up the information. Thank you, Dirk. Very kind words. I'm not sure if I deserve it. Angelic Slayer says they do new for 2022. It's a hot watch. Angelic and Dirk are talking there about Tudor's root beer. Let's pull that up because I think it is a pretty hot watch. To be fair, and to be honest, rather, I should say, my favorite of their releases is the Black Bay Pro, which is kind of their iteration of 1655. Pardon me, the so-called Steve McQueen, or Freccione, as the Italians call it. But the root beer GMT, or the diet root beer, as people already call it, is not too shabby. It's a pretty nice one. So the font and style of the numbers are modeled off that playhouse. Yes, that stage clock in the opera house, which is at any rate in a way an authentic Lange creation, right? You know, that's the guy's great great grandfather and great grandfather collaborating in building that watch. And I think especially when you look at Zeitwerk, right, you know, with that digital display for hours and minutes, you have a pretty close replication of both the aesthetics and function of it. Except, of course, again, the clock at the opera is a 5-minute jumper. So it changes every 5 minutes, like from 5 to 10, 10 to 15, etc. And the Zeitwerk actually jumps one by one and jumps instantly and precisely at the turn of the clock as well, both in hours and minutes. We took a quick look at that in the last stream, so we can do that in a little bit. DP says, I agree, a watch channel with real watch discussion and history. What a concept where you can actually learn something. DP, thank you. I try to keep things horological and historical and narrative oriented as much as I can. I do my best. Night Diver says, I thought root beer was in stock everywhere. There was such a time. There was such a time, Night Diver. Big Meat says, it would be an awkward situation if they called Mike for a root beer Tudor. I think they might offer him one. I'm not sure actually now. Tourneau sells Tudors as well, right? So they might actually offer him, at least on the phone. I hope they don't trick him like that, because that's a 2-hour ride. So we don't want anyone to waste Mike's time, of course. Have you seen this in person? Dirk, please specify if you mean the Opera House or the new Tudor releases. The new Tudor releases I have not. Dresden I have. Unfortunately, I have not seen the Lange manufacture ever. I would love to visit one day. I watched so many videos of it. Perhaps I can find my way around in the public parts of it by now. But when I was in Germany last time, I had no idea about A. Lange und Söhne as a brand. That was 2009. So Mike's AD in San Fran. Mike will be getting his watch by August. Please stop asking him. Thank you for this kind information, Mike's AD in San Fran. Eric says, LOL. Angelic Slayer says, oh, that's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yes, yes, sir. Thank you so much. I love this root beer. This was the first watch that I bought with my own money. It's the first Rolex I bought with for myself, and it will always have a special place. Dirk Diggler says, the only season in California is fire season. Yes, it is very difficult for many. It's horrible. In fact, you know Mike's story in a way. So I always feel for the forests, for the animals, for the people who are suffering, for the firemen who are trying to keep things in check and keep it in control and put it out. It's a very, very stressful time for a lot of people, and I'm fortunate to have stayed away and out of it so far. Dirk Diggler says, I hate the Tudor metal bracelet. I don't have such strong feelings about it, but I can't say I like it either. But hey, I'm also the kind of person who takes watches and any kind of watch off of their original bracelet or band, and I love changing things up. So if I had a Tudor, I'm sure I would wear it a couple of days with the bracelet, and then I would take it off and start changing around, NATO straps and leather straps and this and that. So Eric L says about the Tudor root beer, not too shabby, but that 41 millimeter case is slabby. Yes, well, look, Eric, my favorite out of this lineup of the new Tudor releases was the Black Bay Pro. And again, I still haven't had the opportunity to see them in person, but that one they're criticizing this time because it's 39, and because of the GMT movement they have, it's apparently a little thick, and now there's people are saying that it's a little disproportionate. So people have a tendency to just criticize sometimes. Mikey W. You are the definition of sophistication, also the Zeus of the live chat. Thank you again. I'm not sure if I deserve it, but thank you for the kind words. Sumo Chin, Mr. Chin is here. We did miss you. I missed you. I know that for a fact. And it's nice to see you. As much as you enjoy being here, as much as this brings you some joy in your life, I love seeing you here. Mikey says, to me, Tudor root beer looks very retro, very 80s in the look. Yes, I mean, look, the vintage root beer too, I think it really exudes that 80s air. Although, of course, it's a watch that was put out in the 70s. And people are very partial about this. When Archie was in London, I actually ran an entire show on, your favorite two-tone watches. And when it comes to Rolex, of course, people oscillate between the bluesy and the root beer as the two-tone Rolex watch. Of course, my choice is pretty obvious, but I understand the charm that bluesy has as well. But both of those watches, even in their most modern versions, Rolex or Tudor in this case, I think have a certain 80s vibe. But the two-tone watches are making an interesting comeback. Night Diver says, can you please give me your thoughts on Vempe Iron Walker? I have not seen this watch, so let's pull it up. Vempe Iron Walker. And he says it is a nice Vacheron Constantin homage. Let's see. Vempe, as you guys know, is another German brand that also operates out of Glashütte. And yeah, they do look like, especially the chrono version looks very much like the new generation overseas, except with a less obvious bracelet and of course a smooth bezel. Interesting. This is the first time I see it. Of course, it has the integrated bracelet and it has 2 screws, I think. So not a quick release mechanism perhaps, but shouldn't be too difficult to change things around if you need to. Very interesting and reasonable price point. Of course, it's an ETA movement, Vajou. And what about the three-hander version? Is that is also an ETA with a date display? But that's an incredible deal. Of course, look, I mean, it's if you're really into the style, that doesn't seem like such a bad option. I mean, especially the chrono version. I think that's a great deal. Of course, once again, the so-called Saxon watchmaking tradition is very much invested in hand finishing and decorating the calibers and building these authentic movement architectures and everything. So it rings a little hollow to me when Vempe carries that name, Glashütte, and the Saxonian thing there on the dial, right? This ISA thing. But otherwise, when you just drop that conversation and focus on this as a steel sports watch with an integrated bracelet that has what they call a tractor movement, robust and reliable, serviceable. I mean, I would get something like this rather than getting zero worth. They're more or less in the same price range, aren't they? I would rather get something like this, has a similar quality movement, has the name Vempe behind it, that is at least some kind of heritage and trust. And it actually has a good design, even though, again, like Night Diver said, it's a little reminiscent of Vacheron Constantin's overseas. Sumo says, quality conversations, quality knowledge. Hey guys, feel free to jump in. I'm happy to interact with the chat, but it's always a lot more fun when I have an interlocutor on the panel as well. Dirk says, I was in Hawaii last week, and when I was there, they put a Tudor GMT root beer out at Tournon. I was going to get it, had a coffee with. When I came back in 1 hour, it was gone. I'm sure they're selling like hotcakes at the moment, at least. It's the font of the bezel that gives me the 80s vibe. Yeah, for sure. The font that they used in Tudor's Black Bay Pro, as well as the new root beer GMT they had, they really reinforce that vintage vibe for sure. Tudor 41 Night Diver says, is nice on a large wrist. Hardly notice the faux rivet bracelet. Yeah, I don't obsess over it. I love how the genuine rivet bracelet looks and feels on a vintage Rolex, especially if it's conditioned and if it's not too loose. But I don't have any strong feelings about the Tudor take on it. Night Diver says no wait list. Yeah, Vampi doesn't have any wait list for this stuff for sure. Dirk says, yeah, I hate the rivets. The GMT on the leather band is the way to go, in my opinion. Night Diver says, yeah, leather is not a bad option. I just prefer the bracelet on my 8-inch wrist. Mikey W. We left actually looking very neat and kind of sexy. Yeah. Captain Kirk, Vampe was the original German, one of the original German Flieger companies. Yes, that's true. That's true. They have their watchmaking heritage. I don't want to take away from that, but you know, there is something discordant about putting the name Glashütte on the dial and using an ETA movement. I'm sorry, you know, I need to point it out. It just is. Watch Nicholas. Hey, my friend. It's so nice to see you again. You know, I already appreciate you dropping by. But if you ever want to jump on the panel and talk, feel free. The link is already pinned, but I'm gonna send it out once more. Dirk says Tudor and Grand Seiko, if the economy holds, those watches are going to explode. Look, I love Seiko. I really appreciate a lot of Grand Seiko models. I was flipping through some of my photos today and reminiscing of that limited edition diver that I tried that was 47 millimeters or something, and yet on my you know, dainty wrist it still looked decent because of how well it is designed and contoured. So I have a lot of appreciation for Seiko at all levels, really, up to Grand Seiko. But I don't think it's ever going to be a brand that will explode, to be honest. I do see Tudor picking up the pace, and if Rolex remains unavailable for much longer, I do see Tudor gaining up in values in a steady way, for sure. I don't know if it will explode or not, but I think the theory that many people have started intimating about Tudor taking Rolex's place, as Rolex tries to make a move to join to the big four, so to speak, it kind of makes sense to me. I can see that happening. System says, hey, is the Tudor is the gold in Tudor's Diet root beer solid or plating? I'm afraid it's rolled. Yeah, I'm afraid it's plating. Like it's it's like rolled over. It's like a sheet of gold rolled over the steel, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I have to examine these in person. I have not yet had that chance. So we'll see. We'll see. But I think, as far as I know, that's how Tudor executes their wait lists. So it is what it is, guys. Quick notes of appreciation. Again, I love being with you here on this live stream. I appreciate your support and presence. If you have been enjoying my content, please upvote and support the channel. If you can actually spread the word about the channel on other platforms, that would be great. It really helps me get that much closer to 1,000 subscribers, which is my first major goal on YouTube. So if you can spread the word, if you can help me get that much closer to my first major goal, I would genuinely appreciate that. And of course, that is very much related to this channel getting monetized. So with that being said, if you in the meantime want to encourage me, want to push me forward, want to help me in creating new and original content like what I have been doing on Vacheron Constantin, on Audemars Piguet, on Lange, on JLC, you can always consider a PayPal contribution, and that is the same as my main contact address, which is lordhellespontv@gmail.com, lordhellespontv@gmail.com. I also have a Cash App, which is $LHVVV, $LHVVV. And with that being said, let's go back to Watch Talk. Pavel says, Night Diver says first. Oh, all right. I've missed some stuff. Night Diver says, watch Nicholas. What's up, man? Hey, he was just dropping by, I think, but it's lovely to see him as always. And guys, don't forget to sign up and subscribe to Watch Nicholas as well. One of my favorite channels on YouTube. Dirk Diggler says some of the Grand Seiko limited editions have doubled in price. For sure. I mean, limited editions have, but some Grand Seiko limited editions have been in their boutiques for years now. So I don't know how limited they actually are. Systems Absurdum says about Tudor's two-tone. I figured, had trouble finding an answer anywhere online. Pavel, who actually has a Black Bay Pro now, and has had the chance to examine these releases, he says bezel, end link, and the crown is solid gold. Center of bracelet, pardon me, is capped. Great, thank you for clarifying. Night Diver says, Dirk, between me and you, I'd love to see Grand Seiko getting more notice for sure. Pavel says the non-bracelet dyed root beer is kind of cool. Yeah, I think, you know, of course, the upcharge being just, not being just, I think it is actually 1,200, because this is 4,300, right, on NATO or on a leather strap, and on the two-tone bracelet, it's like 5,500. So there is a little bit of an upgrade, quite a bit of an upcharge there. But I think, yeah, these two-tone watches look great on the right strap, on the right leather band. It's I don't know. I think it's a good deal, actually. Either way, if you like the Tudor bracelet, I think that's a good deal. But if you don't like it, it doesn't sound so bad to save that much money for a watch that you would want to wear and enjoy. Systems. Thanks, Pavel, for the information. Night Diver, exactly. That's what I brought up. Diet Root Beer NATO. Eric L says Night Diver. I think it looks better on the NATO too. I'm happy that we basically all agree. Dirk says, yeah, I think for Lord is right. The punters still want full X and will transition to Tudor in the short term. Although within 5 years, I think Grand Seiko will take off. Yeah, look, Grand Seiko is the brand still for a lot of people in the know, right? It's kind of like Gégé Lecoultre in that way, right? It has a lot of very committed fans who have at least one watch by the brand and follow the brand in a very intense way. And something needs to happen to carry that excitement beyond just a very committed group of individuals. Dirk, I wanted to wait for that because you have a very specific model here. It's Grand Seiko SBGM 235. Grand Seiko SBGM 235. I want to bring that up. This is, of course, one of those beautiful limited editions with the I'm guessing this is a rose engine type of guilloche decoration, or is it laser engraved? Maybe you can clarify that for us, Dirk, because it looks quite beautiful. A limited edition of their automatic GMT of 1,000 pieces, and I think it looks gorgeous. It looks gorgeous. It's a very intricate type of decoration. I know their execution of the GMT is pretty nice as well. And I actually appreciate that this is not a spring drive, to be honest, as much as I recognize the innovation that goes into that. And again, this is not priced that exorbitantly either. 6,500 Canadian. I'm sure you can get some sort of discount on it as well. I think this could be a great watch for the right person. Dirk says, yes, I know I'm nitty picky, but I hate NATO straps, leather or metal. Yeah, they do have when it comes to the Tudor root beer, I think they have a leather band version too, and of course, you can always change things around. Dirk says, I own this. Oh, wear it in good health, man. This is a very nice watch. Very nice GMT. Night Diver says, GS has an issue and need to upgrade bracelets and tone down on limited edition. I feel like, this is like deja vu. It's like what we used to say about Omega a few years back, right? That they need to stop all these limited editions and upgrade their bracelets. And for me, again, for a brand like Seiko that has such great case designs, such a beautiful way of executing and finishing their dials, they need to up their game, one, on finishing their cases a little better, more deserving of this price, and coming up with a nice, unique, and comfortable to wear steel bracelet of their own. I think that would, maybe that can take them to the next level. Worst case scenario, it will just make the Seiko enthusiasts, the Seiko paths, so to speak, even more committed to the brand. So it's a win-win situation for them. And with all the heritage and knowledge and research and development they have at Seiko, I don't know why this hasn't happened yet. Night Diver says Grand Seiko does a good GMT. I will give them that. I absolutely agree. And Dirk says this one is a little small on my wrist because it's 39 and a half. I think it's, again, it's a sporty function, so to speak, right? Because it's a GMT watch. But I think this is a very dressy watch, actually, because it's actually quite simple and elegant looking. And there's a reason that they present it as their elegance collection. So actually, I don't know. Again, watches can be too small or too big for you, objectively speaking, but I think something like this, right around 39, 40 millimeters, can be a very good watch. Can be a very good size, right? Because at the end of the day, that's it's very dressy. It's very classically elegant. I think it looks great that way. Right. I will actually take a quick break, guys. I need to get a drink and get a toilet break. So I hope you'll be still there when I come back. But I will share with you in that meantime that Lange video actually, and you can tell me if you enjoy it. The visual aesthetics of A. Lange und Söhne's calibers have been likened to an architectural masterpiece or even an entire urban landscape. The aesthetics of these wholly hand-finished movements blend with distinctive elements and unusual layouts that define the dials of the German manufacturer's timepieces to create a singular design language. Let's take a look at the inspiration A. Lange und Söhne have drawn from an architectural marvel over the years. Some 20 miles north of Glashütte, the German town that is now world-renowned for its watchmaking tradition, lies the city of Dresden. One of the most important cultural and political centers of Germany historically and in the present time, Dresden has been called the jewel box for the architectural beauty of its historic center. Even among these unique historical landmarks, the Dresden Opera House arguably holds a pride of place. The building is a centerpiece of the historic city center as a prime example of the Dresden Baroque, the eclectic architectural style that adorns the urban landscape. Situated in the theater square on the bank of the river Elbe, the Opera House also stands as a symbol of the city's own revival. The Semper Oper, named after its architect, Gottfried Semper, was first built in 1841, but after a disastrous fire, it had to be built for the second time by Manfred Semper under the guidance of his father, the original architect. In the wake of the city's devastation in the last few months of World War II, which left the building burnt to a shell, it took another 4 decades for the Opera House to be reconstructed for a second time and opened in 1985. This story of cyclical rebirth and revival could have already served as a handy allegory or an opulent fount of inspiration for the manufacture that rose from its ashes in 1990 after the German reunification. Yet the historical connection between the Dresden Opera House and A. Lange und Söhne is at once more profound and tangible. One Johann Christian Friedrich Gutkiss, the court watchmaker at the time in Dresden, was commissioned to build a stage clock for the new opera house already in the late 1830s. A clock which he designed and built by a team of apprentices that included his son-in-law, Ferdinand A. Lange. The 5-minute clock that adorns the opera stage indicates the hours with Roman numerals 1 to 12, and the minutes with the Arabic numerals from 5 to 55 with a blank minute aperture at the top of the hour. When in 1990, Günther Blümlein and Walter Lange, the great-grandson of Ferdinand A. Lange and the great-great-grandson of Gutkiss, went about reforming A. Lange und Söhne to not only demonstrate the finest traditions of Saxon watchmaking artistry, but also to rival the greats of Swiss high horology, they didn't thus have to look far. If the uniquely asymmetric dial design of the iconic Lange 1 recalls the stylistic eclecticism of the opera house, it is the oversized date display that gives the most explicit nod to the horological heritage proudly displayed by the stage clock. The increased legibility of the date echoes the felicitous intertwining of aesthetics and utility that characterize the work of Gutkiss, Lange, and company. Among all the manufacturer's creations, it is the Zeitwerk that most intimately reflects the ethos of the famous 5-minute clock. Here, the retrofuturistic time bridge takes center stage, and even if the digital display is executed exclusively in Arabic numerals and in the form of precisely jumping hours and minutes, the visual correspondence between the Lange Zeitwerk and the stage clock is difficult to miss. Finally, in the sportier, more dynamic option that the brand offered in 2019, uniquely in stainless steel to its loyalists, the Odysseus, the double display returns in the form of a day-date function that can be adjusted by the stylized and tapered pushers, which also double up as crown guards. In homage to the original design, the left-hand aperture for the date remains blank from the 1st to the 9th day of the month, as is the case with the oversized date display of Lange 1. In the world of horology, the phrase Phoenix brand is often used dismissively to expose what are essentially micro-brands that invent for themselves a non-existent and outsized provenance in a disingenuous mixture of mythology, history, and capital. The Saxonian manufacturer, however, have for the longest time drawn inspiration from the history of revival and reconstruction of the region for their singular and exciting horological creations. For their unique and compelling blend of their own time-honored tradition, bold technical innovation, and handwork-oriented artisanal attention, A. Lange und Söhne deserve to be honored for their star-like rise. If you have enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share far and wide to help me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers. And stay tuned for further content on Rolex, Lange, Jaeger-LeCoultre, and our shared passion for wristwatches. Hey, welcome back. Thank you for allowing me to take that intermission. Dirk says about his, Grand Seiko GMT, I still wear it, but only on nice dinners out or with a suit. Yeah, that seems like a perfect occasion to wear a watch like that. That was the automatic GMT limited edition from Seiko's Elegance series. Let's see if I can just flip back to it. No, it wasn't there. Okay. Knight says the Armory just stocked a 34 millimeter GS. Grand Seiko, is this a trend back? Is this a trend for the comeback, perhaps, of the classic gentleman size watch? That's okay. The Armory is this menswear brand that is based in Hong Kong, but they also have a branch in New York. Very, very classy store, if a little overpriced. Nevertheless, it's owned by this guy, Mark Cho, who's actually quite a respectable collector himself. He has a very eclectic taste. He has a very interesting collection that includes a lot of quartz watches, a lot of smaller, thinner dress watches. So that's kind of his pet project. And honestly, it can possibly catch on, you know, because at the end of the day, not everyone has an 8-inch wrist, as you said, Night Diver. So, you know, maybe for the rest of us, those smaller sized watches, especially dressier watches, are maybe making a certain kind of comeback. I think what could be really exciting is perhaps, well, I mean, I should really just state it as my personal opinion. I think it would be really nice to see more watches like the classically sized Explorer 1, like 36 millimeter, but a sports watch, right? Smaller sized sports watches. I would like to see that, right? Rather than having this huge divide between what are essentially, you know, thin and smaller dress watches, or their bloated versions, or their outsized versions on the one hand, and then larger, beefier, heftier, thicker sports watches. I would rather have a genre that kind of straddles both and maybe occupies that space between 36, 38 millimeters with sportier designs, maybe different case shapes. I know I'll be stoned for this in the community, but I kind of like, for example, that Hermes sports watch that was selling like hotcakes like this time last year, the H08. I'll bring it up. And I don't know, I thought that was a very unique and interesting take that had certain dressier and retro elements, but was more of a steampunk kind of creation, more of an industrial type of creation. I like this design. I don't know. I can't exactly put my finger down on why it appeals to me so much. But it's kind of an entire package of original design. You know, it's not trying to be something else. It's not trying to look like some other watch that is out there. I like the use of titanium. I like the fact that they basically made an entirely new font for the numbers on this watch. You know, the date wheel too has the same numbers. And I like the fact that they again have a movement that carries actually their own name, right? It's a movement called H1837 after the founding year of Hermes as a manufacturer, and this is basically made for them by the same movement company that makes movements for Parmigiani Fleurier, Vaucher, it's called, and Hermes owns, I think, like a 25% stake in that company. So this is basically an in-house movement, right? Has a beautiful butterfly kind of clasp that has an extra extension and has, I think, at least 100 meters of water resistance. It might be a little more. No, 10 bars, yeah. So I don't know. I like seeing things like this, right? I haven't gone out of my way to actually acquire one, but I think there should be more of these sorts of watches. Rourke says, his lordship an asset to the community. Thank you, Rourke. Thank you. I really, really appreciate this. I don't know if I deserve any of this, but thank you for the support. Mikey W. Prix says, I like Grand Seiko, but don't feel they offer value for the price. And Knight says, Mikey, it's their bracelets that cheapen them, in my opinion. And Dirk thanks Knight for his kind words on his Grand Seiko GMT. Thomas Broadbent, welcome back. Maybe his collection has classic watches. Yes, Mark Cho's own collection has a lot of classic dress watches. I think there must be some videos out there where he discusses his collection. I think he did something for Revolution, perhaps, if not for Hodinkee, something like that. That's a nosebleed section. Yeah, that was the Opera House, right? Dirk says, remember when the hype thing was those 55 millimeter size Invicta watches? Yes, I do remember. DP says, welcome back to the channel, by the way, DP. Yes, LOL, you could take it off the wrist and use it as a set of brass knuckles if the need arose. That's what the ladies say about me, thicker and heftier. Thomas says, 49.79 space is fun value zone. I'm with you, sweet function. DP says, Hermes is nice, unique. Thank you. Viscount Markham. Claps. Thank you, Markham. Welcome, welcome. That's a color combo on that herpes Hermes. DP says, who knew? Bezos. This Hermes watch reminds me of the FP Jaune in quartz. Yes, perhaps. Let's pull that up. Yes, I see what you mean. But that is more of a traditionally shaped tonneau case. This was more of a cushion case, like in the tradition of Seiko Turtle, maybe. But I think it's the accent you see with the bezel and the contours, the outer contours of the case, that perhaps reminded you of that, the different finishes to the metal there. Yeah, maybe it's the orange strap. Yeah, well, Hermes has a right to the orange strap, of course, as much as anyone. It's one of their most distinctive colors, that burnt orange. But yes, I exactly see what you mean. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Balser, welcome to the channel. The non-hyped Grand Seikos tend to be good value used. Yes, actually, that's one of the things I wanted to mention, but completely forgot when Dirk broached the topic. That some of these watches don't explode is actually an advantage to people like us, the collectors, the enthusiasts, because it means that if we buy at retail, we can actually get a discount. If we buy in the secondary market, right, it means that we can get a good deal. So I don't have any complaints. Thomas Broadbent says, speaking of Paris, Julia Child, and we will tie it in. Jay Gray says, yes, I was talking about the Opera House would not want to have vertigo up there. Corrado Galizia, thank you, man. Thank you for your contribution to the channel. I bought an Invicta Russian diver that was massive many years ago. Dirk says, don't feel bad. I bought a 48 or 49 millimeter fake Breitling in NYC. I was so young at the time, and I thought I was so cool. And Corrado Galizia says, we all started somewhere. Guys, we just passed the first hour. I really appreciate you being here. I posted the link again, and it is already pinned, so feel free to click and jump on the panel. I love having an interlocutor. I love having a panel. But hey, I don't mind listening to my own voice, as they say. EDH jumped on, but I don't know if, yeah, he didn't stay for whatever reason. But hey, guys, if you want to jump on, I would love that. Yeah, I think I'll take you in, EDH. I don't think we have talked before, but it would be great. Hi, how are you doing?
Hey, Lord, how are you?
Good, good. You don't have to turn on your camera, but I appreciate that you did that in the background, so I know that you're real.
For sure. First time, long time listener, first time caller. So I'm
Great.
not really sure what I'm doing. That was unintentional having the camera on.
Oh, it's all right. It's all right. Yeah, nice
How
to
are
see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you.
Good. Well, it can't be that long of a time. I wasn't even around before February, but yeah, we all just roll with it basically. So we're just talking about watches, talking about life, whatever comes up.
Yeah, 100%. I guess I should say long time listener of
Archie.
Archie and his followers. So typically I'm like listening while shuffling between work and family stuff, and my girlfriend's out of town, so tonight was a good night to hop on. And I'm a big fan of yours. I especially appreciate your channel, so wanted to hop on and let you know that, and
Thank you.
hopefully contribute in some capacity.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Look, we know that the significant others usually, the women in our life, don't necessarily are appreciative of the kind of humor that Archie propounds. So I understand that, but I'm glad you have a little break there where you can engage,
100%.
so to speak. So
100%. Yeah. It's funny to read like in the chats and in the WhatsApp groups and whatnot, like people's significant others' opinions of Archie.
right. Did
Yeah, the sense of humor or the like his appeal to us male watch enthusiasts who are a certain way, it's others don't take to it as fondly as we do.
Yeah, and I mean, for sure I made an assumption there, but I guess you are confirming it. So if you don't mind me asking, what does your girlfriend think of all this, of the Archieverse, of your hobby?
Mm-hmm.
Does she say anything? Does she say anything judgmental? How does she react when you're listening to Archie?
Not judgmental to anything, I would say, besides his personality, right? Like,
Mhm.
I feel like the hobby has grown so much, and you know, me being in my early 30s, her being in her 20s, like it's a Instagram generation, right? And like the watch hobby has kind of spilled over into that. So I
Yes.
feel like the hobby itself is not so much of a crazy concept as it is that would join a guy and on the other side of the world's live stream
Yeah.
for X hours a week and listen to him kind of pontificate, right?
Yes. Well,
Um,
I think social media really um, took things into the next level and into a different level, as you said, right? There's so much going on now that, on the one hand, um, talking about watches in that particular way, maybe it's not all that, it's not all that unusual anymore. On the other hand, I think the Archieverse really has its own character and kind of, the reason I made up that term. I don't get any credit for it, of course, but hey, who cares? The reason I made up that term is because it's like a self-enclosed space that has its own reality in a way. Um, it has its own standards of behavior that may or may not fly outside of it, and that unique character either has an appeal for you or is repulsive to you. I think it's very hard to strike a middle ground. Um, yeah, when it comes to my Instagram, I mean, I'm not necessarily hiding it, but it's at such a, they're both kind of fledgling. I just started that Instagram account at the beginning of the year, and this channel I started in February. So, um, but if you want to talk about something specific, we can certainly pull it up and talk about it.
no, I, you know, I, there's there's not many people you come across that I think have a real eye for design and um, just the pleasures of an of um, the small details and finer things in life. And I think your Instagram does that very well. So if there's
Okay.
anyone who's following anyone who's listening who doesn't follow it, say check it out.
Yeah, I'll post the link. I have no problem doing that. It's at the end of the day, it doesn't really contain any personal information, and it's mostly, like Evan said, it's mostly about style. It's mostly about aesthetics. It's mostly about taking pleasure in little things in life. I'm trying to put more horological content there as I try to expand this channel in other ways as well. And even though it will always be primarily watch related, I'm not as good of a comedian as some other people are in the community. So I'll always try to have a more or less focused discussion. But yeah, that's my Instagram channel. There's a little bit of crossover, but not always. There's a lot of watch spotting there.
Yeah.
We have been talking back and forth, Evan and I, on Instagram. So I think that's why he's also bringing it up.
Yeah, no, 100%. We were talking about a planner cover.
Right.
And I haven't bought anything that you want, but the amount of work it takes to find the right one, it's like you don't care enough.
Mm.
And
Well,
banner cover is a perfect example for me.
Right. I mean, look, the thing for me is when it comes to these sorts of things, as it is usually in watches too, for me, looking for these things is just as much of a pleasure as it is owning them, and as it is making them part of my life, right? So when I find a photograph like this, where I appreciate every single detail, and where I find like a watch that is worn with a certain outfit, the way the scarf is tied, the way that the collar flows over the lapel and everything. For me, it's just about enjoying and learning, and maybe I will take a piece of it and do something with it, or maybe not. So for me, the exploration, the hunt on eBay, the kind of scavenging for the photographs, for the visuals, it's all part of the game. I was very happy with this, for example. Even though Sarri looks very frazzled here, this is a very famous football coach who was at the head of Napoli for a while. He was at Chelsea as well, won the Europa League with them. Here he's wearing a pre-Daytona Rolex chronograph, for example. I was very happy to find that detail. You can find the hype watches a lot of times on people's wrists, but when I find the vintage Rolex like this, for example, again, Claudio Ranieri, who won the Premier League with Leicester, right? And you see he has the 4-digit original Explorer 2. And, that made me happy for whatever reason. But, for me, it's the search that's much more pleasurable in a way.
I'm just now realizing that you post a lot of football managers. For some reason, I always thought they were across all sports. Is it only footballers that you post?
Not necessarily. No, there's a lot of industrialists, actors, and other people as well. But recently, I've been in, I get into these zones basically, and I end up I end up producing that kind of material. So lately, my kick is I look at Italian football types and see what watches they're wearing. So, Viscount Malcolm, how are you doing?
Sorry, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Welcome.
No,
How you been?
I felt compelled to join the stream because of EDH here, and basically the same situation as him. I've been a fan of Archie since his start on YouTube, and I've been pretty silent. I haven't really super chatted too much until the last 2 years, and I do have to admit that I really enjoy your channel, and you're part of the community just as much as Tim Wright, and I felt compelled to come on.
Thank you, man. I appreciate this. You also go by Rourke Malcolm as well?
Yeah, that's my other account. I have two accounts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Lovely.
I also follow your Instagram, and I have to say the same as EDH here. I really like the feed there. So.
Oh well, I mean, thank you. I'm glad. I'm glad people are enjoying this. Again, for the most part, I like the posting stuff that comes across my desk more or less, and yeah, I'm glad. It's always nice to see someone appreciating it. So I kind of went on this long digression. So don't mind me.
Well, I can't wait till you're at 1,000 subscribers so you can do the live streams. I'd really enjoy that as much as Timmy's, right? We hit all these fans in the community have probably so many people they subscribe to. They have probably 7-8 people they watch on the regular. It's hard to line it all up to watch all of them on the regular, but definitely watch yours on the regular.
Thank you. I mean, again, I'm trying to offer something different, something that doesn't necessarily compete directly with anyone. I think we all have something to contribute, and you see at the end of the day, people end up making their own choices and finding their own niche, and that's completely fine. Again, one of the things that made me fall out of love with some of the other secondary streams was they started turning into kind of a Tim Wright hate channel rather than producing something unique of their own, right? So that's my only concern. We might have disagreements, but at the end of the day, Tim does good by Archie. Tim works for Archie, and I support him as much as Archie supports him, and as much as he supports me. So
I remember watching Archie streams back before Tim. He used to do a Wednesday, he called it like midweek, and then he did Friday, and then Saturday Night Live, and then Sunday. And it wasn't 3 hours a day. He started doing 30 minutes a day because of COVID, and then he did 3 hours a day because Timmy was doing it. So, I mean, I've been a fan quite a while, and I like the live streams compared to just Archie posting the videos, right? And of course, he's changed over the years too, but I see what you mean, that people have been hating on Tim, and he's been one of Archie's most loyal supporters, Bear Clooney as well, and multiple other that I can mention. So.
Yeah, I mean, that I'm not going to even mention the names of other channels. There was a certain vicious cycle that they fell into, and rather than again doing something by themselves, they fell into trashing other channels, and that's really not my interest. Yeah, I love this comment, by the way. Joe Money says, Hellespont, your accent gives your commentary an aura of sophistication. It's this is my favorite genre of compliment, the backhanded one. As if he's trying to say, otherwise you're without substance, but since you have an accent, it kind of sounds fancy.
Take what you can get.
Oh, what's up?
I said, take what you can get. As an American, we never have the pleasure of being told that we sound intelligent.
Yeah, although I have to say, Americans are easily influenced by accents, easily impressed by accents as well. You know, there's a sense that like a continental or British accent gives you a certain sense of authority. You know, so I understand that.
News anchors, right?
And yes, also, by the way, in addition to the news anchors, there's also, of course, you know, earlier 50s and 60s Hollywood, there were a lot of actors of British origin who were trying to find this midway, like transcontinental kind of transatlantic kind of accent, right? You know, it wasn't quite British, it wasn't quite American, like Cary Grant, Audrey Hepburn, and there's a certain charm to that, you know, that, oh, this guy speaks kind of like American English, but it's a little different. Dirk says, you can get funny, you have some sense of humor. If you go with a panelist, you need guys with some comedy chops. Maybe I need a reliable sidekick who can provide comic relief. I mean, I went with that idea of doing a late show, so maybe that format really needs a sidekick.
I think everyone has their own kind of personality. Tim has his own personality. Archie is obviously probably, I'd say, the best personality. He's very, very unique compared to other people that are doing watch reviews, right? He has his own personality. It really stands out compared to everyone else. And you definitely have your own, and I think you could be very successful.
I think so. Again, you know, I'm patient and I'm trying to take my time. Dirk says you have more watch knowledge than anyone if he can figure out how to, if I can figure out how to make a bit more fun, people will flow, people want to laugh and learn at the same time. Well, I'll try to teach you something and you can laugh at me. I think that could be a good compromise. No offense. I say this, no offense taken, man. It's just like, you know, again, when I'm in the, you know, on the sidelines or just in my corner in Archie's show, I can sometimes supply, you know, little jokes and a little bit of relief. But, you know, when you are running the show and you don't have the kind of boisterous character that Archie has and Tim has to a certain extent, you know, it's just different. Jay Gray has good jokes, you see. He says, if Berlusconi's finance minister was wearing a Submariner, I guess he knew that the ship was going down. Mamba Mentality, another Southern California local. How are you? Welcome. So you guys are both in the US, right? You don't have to dox yourself or tell me exactly where you are, but you both are.
I'm in Toronto, Ontario, so.
Okay, you're in Canada.
Yeah.
Chicago.
Cool. Chicago is cold.
Yeah. We're at that point like where it's the worst time of the year to be here. It's, you know, early May and it's like 40 degrees, you know, just waiting for it to warm up.
And you're dying to, you know, kind of transition into perhaps something more springy or summery, but it's not that time yet, right?
Yeah, I mean, we get, you know, Viscount can speak to weather in Ontario, but I mean, we get snow in late April every year, you know.
It's the same here as Southern Ontario, basically same as Chicago. Yeah. It's very unpredictable. Very unpredictable.
Expect the unexpected, and as soon as you think that you're in the clear, it's like a week later, it's back down into the, you know, high 20s and there's snow on the way.
Yeah, I mean, I remember even in New York, which is, you know, of course, south of all of this and not as bad as Chicago, honestly. We used to get a lot of snow in March and sometimes all the way into April. But by May, things were, by late April, May, things were fine. And then the summer would hit, and that was actually disgusting. I mean, a lot of humidity. It's hard to survive the city when it's humid, and you end up going down and taking the subway, and you see that one car that's completely empty.
And you know why?
Well, you know why, but you still can't resist it, right? So you want to go in, and you realize, of course, because the AC is not working.
Oh, okay. In Chicago, it's a different issue. In Chicago, it's like half the train is empty.
Uh-huh.
And it's because that's where all the either homeless or sleeping, or drunk people, or people using drugs are all.
LA is like that. The LA metro is like that, but that's a lot of cars. Basically, it's not just one or two. It's a lot of cars in the metro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's probably the biggest casualty of, when I say biggest, I mean like the thing that's most noticeably different in Chicago since the pandemic is public transit.
I have to agree with Dirk here.
Yeah, Dirk says, with the Archie show, you are the calming reason. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Mamba says, even Marcelo is funny. I unintentionally so, but yes, I can agree that he can be funny sometimes. Jay Gray says, T-Dot 2 hours up the road by count. Yeah, I think Jay Gray is in London, Ontario, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I'm a little bit out of Toronto. I'm actually in Markham, Ontario. It's not too far away, but I just consider it Toronto for international people that I talk to. So. Yeah,
I wouldn't have known if you told me that. So Toronto is.
Yeah.
Oh, hi. Hey, Ari.
First time on. I thought I'd come on and say hi. How are you, sir?
Of course. It's so nice to see you, man. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you doing? And nice to meet both of you, EDH and Malcolm. I'm
Toronto,
I'm over in Vaughan.
I'm in Markham.
I'm close to you. Yeah, I grew up in Markham.
Got an Ave map of Toronto up here.
Yeah, nice.
Between the bookshelves there,
Nice. Yeah. I just wanted to pop on and say hello. I've never been on your stream before, and just yeah.
I've seen you somewhere though. I remember that poster in the back.
Yeah, I've been on. I'm primarily on like JJ and Marco's streams. I popped on Tim right on occasion. On much more, probably about a year ago now, maybe 9 months ago now, or something like that. Yeah. But stuff's gone on. I saw a question what the panel's wearing.
What is the panel wearing? Let's go one by one. Ari.
Date just 41 today.
Nice.
Yeah. What color?
It's the white.
Nice.
Smooth bezel, oyster.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Malcolm?
Just a Seiko SKX009, a little shitter here, a little beater watch. I actually sold most of my watches off, and I'm rebuilding my collection. So
don't say that, man. I have 3 Seikos, one of which is the 009. I love that.
There's no such thing as a shitter. If you love your watch, you love your watch. No.
I used to have a Speedmaster Professional, probably from 2005, like 1861, I think. And then I had a Rolex Oyster Day 6694. I had
nice.
Reduced, and I had a Breitling Colt Ocean from like 1999. But I sold most of those off and bought other non-watch related items, and then bought this, and I'm starting to get back into the community.
Yeah, this is just in terms of I have other watches, but these are my in major rotation. So I got the PRX on I believe on your left,
right?
The Longines Big Eye in the middle, and the Omega Seamaster. Now specifically, I wanted the smooth bezel one. I don't. Cool. I know everyone loves the wave dial. I don't love it. I prefer a simpler bezel dial. So that's what I ended up doing. all in a phosphorus case. It's very nice.
Honestly, I'll say this: compared to the newer wave dial, I do prefer the plain one. I do have a soft spot for the older execution of like the hand-guided guilloche wave dials.
I know what you're talking about. I get it.
I'll pull up one in a bit as we take a look at Malcolm's. Perhaps.
You can get wave. So they had the wave to start, then they went to smooth, then wave is back.
Correct. Yeah. They stopped with the wave, and I specifically sought out that watch when I bought mine because I really wanted the smooth. Oh, and what do we have there? Oh, it's hard to see what the
Explorer black dial.
It's like guess the watch.
I can unblur myself.
Yeah. Unblur yourself just for. I'm sure your room isn't that bad.
Yeah, we can't really see. Turn it around.
There we go.
Yeah, Explorer 2 black dial.
Nice, really nice.
How do you guys do that so comfortably?
It's I wear it on my opposite hand, so it's because I'm a lefty, so it's I don't know. It's a little easier.
I'm actually curious. How do you do that so comfortably? Shit.
Yeah, well, Evan, you just said it's basically one of your first times on the stream, so it's
exactly. My first time holding
really
my
nice.
up to the camera. I've held my middle finger up for people on work calls.
That's very good.
See, more people go for the polar dial, but I think there's something to be said about the black dial. It's more unique. Everyone goes for the polar dial. So.
Yeah, it's a very common one. I agree. The black is very nice.
Hey, in the true tradition of Archie luxury, you always go for the one that's fallen out of fashion. So now that the polar has picked up, it used to be the dog of the range, as you remember. Now you go with the black dial.
Right.
So this is the older execution, right? You know, the HEV is a little more subtle, aluminum bezel insert, and as you see, Evan, this is a different design of the wave.
Yeah. So another very big difference with this, and I'll lump the smooth dial, the lacquer dial, into the same category. This doesn't use a total in-house movement, and so you can service it anywhere. The problem with the latest Seamasters is you've got to take it to Omega to service. There's no way to service it outside of Omega. So it depends what you want, but that's another thing too.
That's very good. Yeah, it's very helpful information. This it's like a chameleon. This style, right?
I think this is very nice. I think this is really nice. Yeah. You can, if you're looking for it, you can see the wave. But you're right. It's not from all angles. Not from all angles.
How is that? It's just How do they do that? How do they make it so that it's
not heavy contrast? I think that's how they do it. So you can imagine that it's a very navy blue already with black, and again, there's not heavily contrasting sections. That's my opinion, at least. So on certain angles, it kind of blends.
And
you can't see it.
Yeah.
On the new one, it's laser engraving, and it goes much deeper. And this is like hand guided engine.
Yes.
That's much more subtle, so it reflects the light a little differently compared to.
That's right. Exactly.
And these are very good deals. Like you can find one in great condition for $3K and even less.
Yeah. Yep, you're absolutely right. You can get good price. I paid a little bit for this because I wanted. My Omega, because I wanted one in immaculate condition. And I wanted like a relatively recent model too. So I ended up paying for it. But you're right. If you don't care about that, you can actually pick up some really great deals.
So I'm wearing my vintage root beer.
Oh, wow. That's really nice.
On a nice little
leather strap, yeah.
And I want to change the bezel insert to the 2-color one. But I love the nipple dial and how it goes with this faded bronze. I might put it back on the Jubilee bracelet as well, but for now, I'm just enjoying it on the leather, and hopefully, if I don't flake out, I'm going to take care next weekend of putting the 2-color bezel insert. So I change things up a little bit as we go into the summer. Jay Gray says Seiko 5 on my wrist. Ari, very nice. DP, nice. ADH 614. Jay Gray says the Omega deserves a native strap. Smart move, Viscount. Rolex going to tank when the Fed takes the easy money away.
I think the easy money's already gone.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's
I was gonna pose a current events question because I haven't kept up with Rolex prices or watch prices the last month or so. I'm seeing a lot of like headlines on YouTube that it's crashing. Is it actually, or like what? Am I missing something? I went to David SW and it didn't look like it was any noticeable decrease in prices.
So people are noticing a change from the normal, right? And the normal for most people over the past during COVID has been prices have been just ridiculously increasing month over month. Now they're not increasing month over month, so people are starting to say there's a massive crash happening. There are models that are going down in price, but it's not like you can suddenly get a Plutona at retail or something like that. That's not happening. But definitely the increases have slowed. There will be models that will dip in price for sure, but the hype beast models will continue being the hype beast models. I don't necessarily see them going away, but there are certain models where if you're watching the prices closely, you'll see them modestly dipping a little bit, but they're still ridiculously over retail.
Yeah.
I think there's some of the outrageously hyped up and overpriced watches did dip like 10, 15, sometimes 20%. You saw, for example, like the rose gold day date 40 with the olive green dial. There was one for sale a month and a half ago for 100,000 I saw, and now I see them selling for around 80, or being listed for, I should say, for around 80. So those outrageously priced ones, they took a very significant dip even in the way they're listed. And you should always, even before, when you see them listed for a certain price on Chrono24, on a lot of the popular dealers' pages, it's always somewhat wishful thinking, right? They're really listing it for something higher. I know there are some dealers who have this shtick about, like, I list my best price and don't try to negotiate with.
It's bullshit. That's bullshit. Yeah.
Anyway, so at any rate, I think there will be some correction, but I think by and large, Ari is right. Unless the entire market starts crashing and we have some major disaster coming up where we won't have to worry about watches because there will be something else to worry about, we'll be unfortunately still living through this demand that outweighs the supply, because a lot of these big brands, even Rolex that produces like 1 million watches a year, right? Even they are trying to catch up with the demand, and it's not going to happen with the lowered production in the pandemic. So it's going to be like this for a little while longer.
I know you're right about that. The moment that, let's say, for example, I can get a Daytona at retail, we have much bigger problems, right? Where people aren't going to care about a Daytona anymore. I mean, that's a fair statement. Yeah. Like another 2008, like subprime mortgage style problem or something where now nobody has money.
Were you in the hobby then? Ari?
No, not really. I mean, in 2008, I got probably what I would consider my first nice watch, which was a nice tag at the time, because I didn't know anything about watches then. But for me, that was I spent a lot of money on that watch. I spent about $2,000 on a really nice tag caliber six. I still have it somewhere. But again, it's I wasn't into Rolex back then.
I'd love to know what what it was like. Could you walk in and get a lot of things?
Well, in 2008, you could for sure. I remember in Vegas walking through the Rolex AD when I was there for work, and I remember they had everything in stock. But I mean, I wasn't interested in Rolex at the time. I didn't know anything about Rolex. I mean, I was able in 2018 walk into my AD, and they pulled out about 5 or 6 different Datejusts on the table and gave me my choice. So that even then, I mean, you couldn't get a sub or anything like that, but you could at least get a Datejust, at retail without a problem.
I mean, I'll tell you this, EDH, 2017, right? You could walk in, for example, forget about Rolex for a minute. You could walk into the Tiffany and Co. Tiffany's in Beverly Hills. You take a left, right? Because they are a Patek Philippe AD as well. That's the Patek section. Right now, it's completely empty. Sometimes you can see one woman's watch, like a 24 or something, but it's a ghost town. In 2017, you would go in. There was a rose gold Aquanaut. There was a 5711R, right? With the full pink gold bracelet, both double signed, of course. For a steel Aquanaut, they could get you one in 2 months. I would go in, and they would have the two-tone chronograph, for example, Nautilus. Easy. You could get all of these pieces because at that time, the Patek sports models were not really moving in the same way. And then Christie's did that auction, so it sparked the flame for a lot of the collectors. And then some of Drake started talking about it, so other rappers started talking about it. Then the entire mainstream started talking about it, and suddenly you couldn't get Patek models, Patek sports models, which were basically before then only Italians and weirdo collectors would go after, basically. So it just changed in the entire way. Of course, the economic outlook and the fact that easy money was available had something to do with it. But there was something that changed people's imaginations, both with the influence of social media in the collector's culture and the global market of watch collecting and auctions, and the way that flex culture, as part of popular culture and as part of social media, started directing attention to certain brands and models. It just went to a very different level all of a sudden.
I mean, the amount of hype that has been created over the last 5-6 years specifically, I don't think that we're going to see too much of a drop as some people are expecting with the onset of fearmongers saying that we're in World War III necessarily, right? Some people are going to get scared and they're going to sell, and the prices are going to drop, but I don't think they'll drop as much as the prices were 8 years ago necessarily.
Yeah, just to, I just want to show also that I'm not talking out of my backside. I have an older Instagram account that I don't use anymore, and I have a lot of wrist shots like that from Tiffany's, because I actually my friend was at the time leading their watch department, so I had this is something that I saw that was reserved for a huge celebrity, actually. factory diamonds.
Wow.
Yeah, that's quite the piece. Yeah.
But beyond that, see, that's my SKX 009 poolside.
I think it's a great watch. I think it's a great watch. Yeah.
Amazing.
For the money, yeah, really good.
That's my root beer on the Jubilee.
It's really nice.
And this is, for example, the two-tone Nautilus Chrono. These are the 3800s, right? You know, the mid-generation, mid-sized Nautiluses that were just sitting around in a secondary dealer's case. And what else? Yeah, this is that scene. You see, Tiffany double signed rose gold Aquanaut, and this creature behind there is a 5711R.
Yeah.
So
in the case, huh?
Yeah. No one cared about it. And it's Beverly Hills. We're not talking about, you know, an obscure Patek dealer in, you know, again, nothing against any state, but it's not in Missouri, you know, it's Beverly Hills just 5 years ago.
Yeah, when I got this, this was my first watch, and they had a Batman, a James Cameron, and a white dial Explorer 2. And I just picked this one because it seemed the most versatile, and I should have bought all four.
I'd say the Explorer 2 is probably my favorite Rolex. I couldn't make up my mind between the black and polar dial, but Lord, don't you have an Explorer 2, like a more 16710 or something like that?
Yes, I have the that's the GMT Master 2 5-digit, but I do have a 5-digit polar, which is 16570. I love that watch, and that's, to me, Rolexes of that period have a very particular attraction, because if you are like me, coming from vintage, right around 2000, you know, plus and minus 2 years, you get a watch that's more of a modern build, that has in year 2000, it has Luminova on the dial, so still functional lume, which is something we don't have in tritium watches, for example, which are the kind of Rolex I usually own. You have an oyster bracelet with solid end links, so a little bit of a different and heftier feel on the wrist, because again, some people coming from more contemporary watches talk about jingly jangly Jubilee, and you know, the, like Bear, for example, says, like, you know, vintage Rolex watches are like toys, you know, they don't feel like watches and whatever. So that's a whole different thing. But in year 2000, you get something like a Holz case, very modular. Pop out the bracelet and put it on something else if you want. If you don't, the bracelet feels relatively modern. The watch has a functional luminous dial, which is great. And, you know, sapphire crystal, if you prefer that. I do actually prefer plastic, but that's okay. Anyway, so, you know, 1997, 2000, all the way to 2006, pre-ceramic, 5-digit, still great deals for the most part. Some of the best watches, best Rolex watches to get, for sure.
Right.
That Explorer 2, the size is perfect, though. Like, the size is really, really good.
The older one, you mean?
Yeah. The 42 that I have, it's bigger, you know, and that it was at the, whatever, 5-7-ish years ago. That was the, you know, the fad.
So EDH, you have like the 216 570?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's good, but the size of the 40 is like it's just perfect.
I mean, again, I do prefer that, and my wrists are not, not that large, so I have my reasons for preferring that. But I also don't think, for me, some watches are just too big. Rarely do I find a watch where I think like, this is really small for me. That almost never happened. I mean, I tried some 5500, for example, like Air Kings 34 millimeters. And if I thought it had a place in my collection, I would have walked away with it easily because it looked good.
I found a couple 34 millimeter watches that fit my wrist perfectly. I have more of a slender wrist, but they call it mid-size, and some people are calling a 36 mil like a women's size watch. But come on, I mean, really?
You know what? There are plenty of women that will wear 40 and 41 watches these days. I mean, that feel, that trope or that standard has changed a fair bit, I would say.
But Joe will probably drop by in a little bit to just make that precise point, because he loves having his Explorer 39. So he keeps calling, for example, Tim's or Aussie Expats Explorer, ladies.
Yeah. Absolutely. Interesting.
So some of it is just banter, but otherwise, I do see what you mean, Malcolm. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, the lines have blurred so much. There are some bejeweled pieces that are really much more feminine. There are designs that are naturally feminine, like Bulgari's Serpenti, the snake watch. Like, that's a woman's watch, right? That's a woman's piece of jewelry. You wouldn't wear that. Like, I don't think there are many women who would wear a 55 millimeter Invicta.
It would take a special kind of lady, I think, to wear a 55 mil Invicta. That's for sure. Yes.
That being said, I think more and more women have already moved on to adopting sports watches for daily wear as much as any man does. And when they're nicely proportioned, I think they're great. That's why before all the craze, like in Los Angeles, for example, I would see all the beautiful ladies, especially like 35 and up, wearing a Daytona in Southern California.
It's very popular. Very popular with women. Yeah.
That was the perfect size for a lot of women. Still a sports watch, a chronograph, and has a lot of wrist presence, but it was basically the perfectly proportioned professional Rolex that had so much appeal. And it looks great on a man's wrist. It looks great on a woman's wrist.
You're right.
You see some though that just it doesn't work, like I've seen some like really petite particularly Asian girls trying to wear like Submariner, right? And it's too big. I feel like there's a fine line, right, for men or women.
Yeah, I would. Yes, it's really the size of the wrist that's the override here. I mean, for sure. Yeah, I mean, if you're really, really tiny and like, my wife has a very, very, thin wrist. Like, she would never wear like a 41 of anything. Like, it just wouldn't happen. So, what are we looking at here?
Oh, we're looking at a Daytona. Don't get the wrong ideas. This is my Instagram girlfriend. Please be respectful.
Not saying anything.
No, I'm kidding.
I think you want to zoom in on the watch, right?
The first thing I noticed is the watch, of course.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Yeah. That's a Daytona. Yeah.
Pre-ceramic Daytona. and it looks great. Everything looks great, really, but so does the watch.
Wow.
Is the heart on her wrist for you, Lord?
I wish. But yeah, she's actually an equestrian, and she wears a black GMT and this pre-ceramic Daytona all the time.
Wow.
So and it fits, it fits.
For her.
I mean, there's that age-old argument that sports watches shouldn't go with suits, but I mean, look at James Bond. I mean,
well, I mean, look, the thing is, I make this argument sometimes. Again, it doesn't mean necessarily that they're a dress watch, but obviously 4 and even 5-digit Rolexes have a much, not only do they have a smaller and differently proportioned case size, they're also a lot of times more slender and sleek in profile, right?
Yes.
So when you put them on a leather band, that becomes even lower,
More
right?
subdued. Yeah.
More subdued in terms of presence, but also in terms of how it slides under the cuff. So, again, as much of a fictional character as it is, and as it is a presentation of a very, very strong kind of masculinity, I think a vintage Submariner on a leather band can, especially like no date, that can handle a lot of situations. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a dress watch, but it can certainly be worn with a suit easily, even on the steel bracelet, of course. But it becomes a little more subtle and a little more dialed down when you remove the bracelet. Yeah, I mean, it's a different idea. Again, at the end of the day, I think it's more than the classical standard. It's about how you fit it together with an entire outfit and what you want to foreground, really. At the end of the day, I think a dress watch should be a little more subtle and a little smaller. It doesn't have to be, of course. It is your style.
For sure.
GB Vol says judgy.
Which is judgy.
I don't know. He'll specify, I'm sure.
Yeah.
REG, Joe Money, I'm looking forward to the crypto and NFT bros to get their asses kicked.
Oh, and we're talking about the upcoming recession. So it's like a couple of us are talking. One is saying it's just going to be a wasteland. The other one is saying, well, I think it's just crypto and the speculation stuff getting hit. And so that's where I chimed in. I let's just say I'm not a fan of crypto and NFT. I'm a bit of a skeptic.
Yeah, look,
People don't talk about those this year. I feel like I haven't heard much talk about them.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, crypto has been tanking, of course. A lot of the bigger cryptocurrencies have been tanking, so people usually don't talk about it as enthusiastically, that's for sure.
Right.
The government regulation bearing down on it as well, too. And hasn't Bitcoin dropped a whole lot, too?
Yep.
In the 30s, right?
Yeah, I honestly don't follow the market too heavily, or at least where the prices are. I know they're down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's, there needs to be some regulation wrapped around this a little bit, right? I mean, I'm not saying there's never going to be any kind of cryptocurrency ever. Yeah, I think there will be, but there needs to be some, can't just be the Wild West like it is now.
And when it comes to the NFTs, I think we're experiencing the same effect of the easy money drying up, basically, because people don't have all this real or imagined liquidity that they can spend on just about anything. Excitement has died down a little bit.
No, I agree completely. I agree. So, Lord, I'm going to need to get moving. I just wanted to come in and say hello and just haven't been on your stream and wish you well and everybody be well and be healthy and all the best. I'll
Take care.
see
Thanks
you
for
again
dropping.
soon. All the best, guys. Take care.
Okay. Yeah, Thomas says it is an extension of borrowing a shirt or boxers. Yeah, that's the shirt part I actually love. Like a woman wearing an oversized dress shirt or an Oxford shirt, that's a huge turn on to me. I have been with women who wear what to me looks like the kind of underwear that I wear, like the boxers and trunks. That's my pet peeve, actually. It turns me off almost immediately. So I don't know if I would compare it to a sports watch, which can be very sexy on a woman, but boxers not so much. An exercise in trust and outward display. Yeah, it can be. Buying one for themselves is different. Bear Clooney, Ari, don't be mean. Not your style. Ari is gentle. Ari is good.
Bear Clooney.
Yeah, Bear, you jump on, man. Jump on. Share
I'd
with
love
us.
the chance to see Bear live, actually.
Yeah.
I've been a fan of his for a while, too.
Yeah, I mean, again, I never followed the crypto trend or the NFT trend, but I genuinely don't wish anything bad on anyone. Honestly, I don't want anyone to lose their shirt over an investment. Crypto, real estate, watches, even hyped watches. I don't want people to suffer. But it would be nice if some of the prices came down a little bit and more realistic, closer to retail prices for sure. Viscount Malcolm, Bear, please, yeah, drop by. You're right. I shouldn't have said that about NFT and crypto. Owl 29, vive la différence. Bear, leave the mean comments to us, the brutes. Fair enough. Bear says, you're too good for us. Do it, Bear. Oh, Bear. I love you, Bear. Bear, you know this? I love you. Jump on the stream, Bear. Please. Bear, I want to be freaking honest with you, Bear. Jump on the stream. The link is pinned. I'm sharing it once again. I know you won't break my heart.
Yeah, I had commented on one of your other live streams recently. You showed that jump hour, I believe, Cartier, that I had seen like a couple of years ago almost.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I've never seen anyone bring up that watch except for you. And I think it was Theo and Harris or someone else like years ago, a couple of years ago. So it was pretty unique seeing that. No one ever talks about that watch.
Yeah, I think, wait, let me see if I can find that particular scene. I think when I watched this video where John Goldberger, Auto Montanari, is the Italian collector, showing off his collection of Cartier tanks to Waco from the Revolution. And I think he has this watch among them, even though he mostly has tank Centrés, the ones that like wrap on the wrist and sit on the wrist like a belt almost, right? The ones that are very heavily curved. I think he should have that watch. Let me see if I can find it in the video as we are looking at it now. Because the way he talks about it also is very funny, because he basically makes fun of how he can't see anything. So let's see.
Yeah. Have a hard time reading the watch then.
Right, this is it, you see?
Yeah.
basically the digital display, the hour and the minutes there. I think it's some sort of a special edition platinum on platinum bracelet. Yeah, and this guy is like a mega collector. You know, he owned some of the most significant Pateks in history. He has basically the motherlode of Cartier tanks. He has an entire collection of Longines and Omega, everything, and he's a great photographer himself. So he has a lot of nice resource books with high quality macro shots that are very informative and also very expensive. But yeah, it's that's a very, very interesting watch. The Tank Guichet, as it's called, very, very useless because it's so small and invisible, but aesthetically it's very pleasing.
I mean, I'm only 23, and I'd probably still have a hard time reading it. So.
Well, I mean, my eyesight was just as bad at 23, except I got a LASIK surgery, and it's a little better now actually than it was in my early 20s. But still, man, it's yeah. This is also platinum, by the way, but not on the bracelet. But I like the concept. You know, I like the concept of jumping hours and jumping minutes. That's why I think the Zeitwerk is interesting.
If I had a collection as big as Bear's, I would definitely have a watch like this in the collection. This is very unique. So.
Yeah, Bear says going to sleep. Too bad. Upvote and subscribe. Thank you, Bear. And support this channel and this wonderful guy. Good night. Thank you for the kind words, Bear. Good night. How did Toronto do tonight, Malcolm? Who was playing?
The Leafs, they won 5-0.
Ah.
They
Okay.
beat Tampa.
Cool. Corrado Galizia says, last couple of Theo and Harry's videos made me cringe a little. They love all the brands that pay them for marketing. Yeah, it happens. It happens. It's sad to see it go that way, but it happens a lot on YouTube. Pardon me. Thomas says, serious collection. Yeah, Goldberger's collections are great, but especially his Cartier tank collection is very impressive because you don't see Malcolm, like you were saying, like, forget about people talking on YouTube, but among serious collectors, you see, like, you know, all beautiful Patek perpetual calendar chronos and this and that, you know, entire series of Rolexes from 50s to current models. But you very rarely see someone who has like the definitive collection of Longines dress watches from the vintage period, or all the tank models throughout the years in platinum, in all precious materials, but also in steel. You know, that he's that kind of collector, and I really do respect that. Viscount Malcolm, love you, Bear. Bear says, love you too, Malcolm. Night Diver, special order piece. Yeah, the platinum on platinum bracelet. Davide Parmigiani, who is one of the most famous Italian dealers, just sold one at auction about a year ago. By the way, one of the early live streams of this channel was about the 100 magnificent dates book that Davide Parmigiani prepared as a catalog. And Night Diver had told us about it. And you just send an email to the guy, basically, order the book, and he sends it to you for free. Shipping included for free, that free. So let me drop the link onto that website if you guys are interested. I'm sure 100 people ordered already, so maybe it's not for free anymore. No, the website still says it's for free. So I'm gonna send it right here, guys. Click the link and check it out. And I will also send a link to my video.
What's the FP Journe that has the same look as this Cartier, Lord? I can never remember the name of it. Vaga something?
Which one?
Vagabond.
Vagabond. All right, let's pull that up. By the way, I just realized that I was even worse with the camera EDH. You'll find some relief in this. This early video, it's so cringe. Like, I'm so close to the camera, I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, I try my best. Vagabond. Or vagabondage, even, right? The
Yeah. I just sent it in our private chat.
Oh, okay, that's easier. That's easier.
Yeah, that's it. That's the same one.
It is? Okay. Yeah.
When I say same style, I just mean two wheels turning, right?
Like a digital display, hours,
Right.
minutes. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Same movement, basically, same functionality. Yeah, digital jumping hours and seconds. And of course, the Lange Zeitwerk is a similar principle as well.
I feel like to have a watch like this, you'd have to have like a good foundation of a collection first, because it's kind of like a little more out there in style. It's not so much traditional.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree with that. This is they have a date version of this as well, which takes things up a notch, because see, this is of course seconds on the subdial, hours, minutes, power reserve, and the date out here. And that's also jumping, by the way, and it jumps right at the turn. But let me see, they had a little video on how this works, if I can find it on the website.
What do you guys like, the Journe or this?
For me, I'm a huge fan of Lange, so
Yeah.
I really adore their models. You guys can see the video?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you'll see a few seconds later, you'll see how both the hour and minute jump together, and the date function that is added on that other model is again precisely jumping right at the turn. This is it. I mean, it's just I know it's very dorky, but that just makes me happy.
It's amazing.
See it like that.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Knight says, I'll send you the Cartier catalog from that auction by the Monaco Legend Group, Davide Auction House. Yeah, man, I mean, it will be welcome. Quick interruption, guys. We're past the 2-hour mark. I think I will go for about an hour more. If you have been here, if you have been enjoying the content, please upvote. I really appreciate it. Check out the other videos. I'm putting out content there on a daily basis. A lot of shorter, more narrative-oriented, 5 to 7 minute videos that you can consume on the go. I think you will enjoy them. And let me know in the comments if you like them or not. In either case, spread the word. Send out the link to all your friends. Advertise on other platforms. I would really appreciate that. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. But in the meantime, if you want to encourage me, if you want to support me, feel free to send a contribution on PayPal at lordhellespontv@gmail.com, lordhellespontv@gmail.com. It's on the ticker as well. And I have a Cash App, which is $LHVVV, $LHVVV. And in either case, with any questions, personalized video requests, you can always reach me at that email address, which is lordhellespontv@gmail.com. Thomas says, I love it. The guy has both watches and a time machine. I think, yeah, Goldberger really strikes me as a gentleman who belongs to another time, you know, a gentler time, maybe. What was it? Sometimes I remember that line very vividly. Sometimes I completely forget it. When Obi-Wan Kenobi introduces the lightsaber to Luke, he says, "What? An elegant weapon for a more civilized age," or something like that. So that's what I get reminded of when I see Goldberger. You know, that he's a very elegant man who doesn't quite belong to the 20th or 21st century, I should say. Yeah, this is a sexy young picture of Goldberger that I found just yesterday, actually, and it I thought it was too cool not to share on one of these platforms. Circa 1982, so 40 years earlier, and now he's a silver fox, as you can see. Nice collection of shoes too.
Yeah, beautiful.
Look at those gillies. You know, how many people even have this kind of stuff anymore?
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
He's got a couple pair of brogues and a full wing.
Yep.
A split toe.
That's a full wing there. That's a split toe derby. Yes. A nice cap toe brogue.
I wore brogue shoes to my prom back in 2017, and people were calling it tacky, but I like my shoe collection, so it didn't really mean much what they said. So
Not at all. A lot of, you know, a lot of these kinds of classic shoes, I don't think they ever go out of fashion, honestly.
No, definitely not.
And that's his most recent book, by the way. He collaborated with a journalist. I'm trying to remember his name. It's a book called Time to Race, and it kind of brings together these stories of these gentlemen drivers and their watches, and there's a woman driver too in there, and very nice pictures, close-ups of the watches taken by Goldberger himself, and then stories written by an Italian journalist whose name somehow escapes me, but yeah, Time to Race. It's a very, very nice book. He says he describes the years spent in Venice Beach, during which he chanced upon a white gold Patek Philippe 3450 perpetual calendar in a Beverly Hills pawn shop. Crazy. Knight says, I will email later. Thank you, man. Just stay in touch. I'm more of an Alden loafer man myself, but still nice. Hey, he did have a nice pair of loafers. I hope you didn't miss that night. But yeah, Alden, I think is one of the best brands around. Still,
That's
you know,
American, right?
yes, they're Alden of New England, as their full brand has it. They're still made here, and they will run you somewhere between, depending on the style of shoes, $500 to $750. So still a hefty chunk of money, but they take great care of their own shoes. You can always send them the shoes back for a refurbishing, and it comes back with a new fresh set of shoe trees and in nice shoe bags. It's basically a lifetime warranty, right? I don't think you can resole shoes 10 times in their lifetime, but if you get a nice pair, you will get at least 2 decades out of them. I have shoes that I wore to my high school graduation that I still wear after 2 more resolings, of course, but a good pair of shoes lasts you basically a lifetime.
There was speaking on paying a good bit for a pair of American shoes. I don't know if this is still a thing, but Allen Edmonds used to have
yes,
outlet stores that would sell the seconds. And I used to get, myself and my dad probably bought, 5 pairs of Park Avenues there for 75% off, and it's just a cosmetic blemish, right?
Right. Park was their capital or their full broke? Which one? What was Park Avenue?
That's like their classic. I don't even know what the style you would call it is. That's like their classic shoe that they've been making forever.
Yeah. Okay. It's the Oxford Capto, I think. Yeah. Allen Edmonds it's a better deal than Alden in a way.
It's a wider fit. It's like a very kind of Midwestern shoe in a lot of ways,
Right.
But they're still good.
Yeah. And maybe, right, we were talking about an earlier generation of actors. Maybe Allen Edmonds is more properly American, being from Midwest, and Alden is the kind of shoe that tries to be mid-Atlantic in a way, American, but also very English still in styling. I think that's a good way to put it.
Well, when you look at their logo is it's very European inspired, right?
Alden's, right? Yeah,
exactly. It's almost like the church's logo, the font, and at least for me, it kind of has a European flavor.
Yes, that's true. Owl29 says, I'm myself a loafer. Yeah, well, that's exactly part of the charm of those shoes, because you can just slip into them and loaf around. That's why still, for classical men's shoes, a lot of people love loafers, because you don't have to deal with laces. They're very easy to put on, easy to wear. And in New York summers, at least, I used to be able to justify wearing them without socks sometimes in the heat as well. So that's always an option. Alden or Crockett & Jones. Crockett & Jones is great too. Yeah, it's for British shoes that are a little more affordable. They're great brand. Full On John says, this topic has got me thinking. Oh, wait. Thomas Broadband says, that style and gentle confidence is also why I enjoy Laurent Ferrier. Yes, we were looking at some Laurent Ferrier watches, and we were also talking about how he comes across as someone who is very amiable and friendly, and just kind in his interviews. And it's very interesting, right? The guy worked for Patek for almost 4 decades and was head of product development, I think, towards the end of his career there. but he also placed third in that same 24-hour Le Mans race where Paul Newman was second. So, you know, when he establishes a new watch brand, you have to somehow take heed, right? Because he knows his watches, and he has this sort of gentlemanly heritage as well. And I did enjoy that, the square dress watch that Bondage unboxed very recently. Let's see if I can pull that up before we move on to the next topic. Of course, again, you know, when it comes to the limited production they have and the exclusivity, of course, it's out of reach for most of us. But still, I think it's a brand that we can learn about and learn from. This was the watch, if I'm not mistaken, that Bondage unboxed. I mean, even that snailing, you know, decoration on the micro rotor, fascinating. And I like the old school oyster case kind of styling. You know, maybe also a little bit of a Panerai vibe there as well.
The
Very
strap,
vintage feeling of the case.
Say that again?
I said the strap and the case shape is very Panerai.
Yeah.
Except for you know, obviously the crown and the everything
The
else.
overall shape of the case and even the crown too gives a very vintage vibe, especially the crown too.
Yeah, the knurling on the crown also contributes to that vintage aesthetic for sure. Yeah, like this is what I had in mind, by the way. This is like a Panerai case made by Rolex. Was sold at Sotheby's. See? And you see the crown as well in vintage, right? California dial. But yeah, that's a beautiful, more modern execution of this sort of style. And it makes me happy to see and recognize these sorts of elements in an independent brand that is trying to create its own thing in year 2022.
Yeah, it's not a direct copy there, but they're kind of paying tribute to this kind of design, but it's not a blatant copy. And I really hate when brands do that. They do a blatant copy of something else, like homage.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing with the Swatch, the Speedmaster, because it's owned by the same company, but when other brands just copy other brands, anyway, it's a whole other topic in itself.
Yeah, and of course, you know, the kind of movement, decoration, and technology you'll find this, for better or worse, you won't be finding it in a vintage Rolex Panerai. It was it.
What is that, Lord? 47.5 Swiss francs. That's 50
plus thousand K. Yeah. Excluding taxes, of course.
Right. I guess you get about 20% back.
I don't know. They do have authorized dealers in the US, so I don't know if you get anything back, honestly. But you can try to, if you find them available elsewhere, you can try to work out a deal and go and pick one up, I guess. But
yeah.
Full on John says, this topic has got me thinking. What do you think of wearing a super dressy watch with very casual clothes? For example, a Reverso or a Tang with t-shirt and jeans. I think this is a very cool look. What do you guys think? I have a very specific and quite positive view, actually, on this, but you tell me.
I mean, personally, like if, and we've talked about this, Lord, I'm going to get a Reverso one day. It's just a matter of when.
Mm-hmm.
And, what I'm wearing now, sweater and a dress shirt, is what I wear every day. And it only skews more casual than that. Like I'm wearing a t-shirt and jeans all summer, spring, whatever, and a hoodie and jeans, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if I didn't like that look, I would never wear the watch. So it's just, for me, it's strictly, I like it because that's what I wear and I like the kind of watch. So I don't, mixing and matching things doesn't bother me.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Malcolm?
This is definitely something I would get. I mean, I'd probably get a Reverso, just like EDH said. I'd probably get a Reverso first. If I had a really established collection, I would definitely include something like this. Yeah,
For sure. I mean, look. First of all, I think this might be something waspy that I saw and that I aspired to when I was younger and still on the East Coast. But I did see a lot of kids around me, who were wearing their father's dress watch, with like pink shorts and a t-shirt, and it was, as douchey as it was also kind of a cool look. I have to give it to them. There's something charming about wearing a dress watch without care, right? That you don't always have to baby it. It doesn't have to be that watch you really reserve for one or two occasions a year, and you can just wear it as you would wear any other watch. That doesn't mean you have to bang it about. That doesn't mean you don't have to take care of it. But I think a lot of times I think this is also kind of the collector's mind, and it allows us to do a lot of things. We categorize, right? We go after a diver's watch. We want a GMT. We want a dress watch. And we start compartmentalizing a little too much, perhaps, right? Reverso has that reputation, right? It's it's not a sports watch anymore. Well, who cares? A lot of sports watches we wear to desk dive, right? It's so we don't have to perhaps draw such a strict line between them. There are occasions where you can bring out what is already sporty in the Reverso. After all, it's not a sports watch anymore, but it was introduced for that occasion. It was introduced for a sporting activity. So when it's made in stainless steel and you put it on a strap that gives it a little more flavor, and actually they did great collaborations with Casa Fagliano in the recent decade or so, where they brought even the canvas straps that give the Reverso such a cool, dynamic, sporty vibe that you can wear it with a decent polo, or even a simple shirt, jeans, even shorts, and you will be just fine. Let me see if I can find that website they had with the canvas straps. It most certainly looks very sporty to me. I have, by the way, these two straps. And I think they go well with the.
I had a strap similar to this, a tan and brown one. I had on an old Tissot Sea Star, really a vintage watch. It was my grandfather's, but I think it looks really good on the Reverso. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but even on a like dark brown, or maybe a light brown, pardon me, leather strap, it can look quite nice. You know, you don't even have to go for something as specific as this. As long as it fits nicely there with the case, I think it's a great look. And again, this is a little more sophisticated, perhaps, right? You know, with a very nice light kind of knitwear. You know, it can be like a long sleeve polo or like a light cashmere or cotton sweater. But it can be also just a short sleeve polo or even a simple pocket tee, you know, and you can pull it off. It absolutely works. And if you guys remember, I don't really recall the outfit, but have you guys watched this series called You? You know, where you have this Joe Goldberg stalker character.
He like kills all of his girlfriends, right?
Well, what I was going to talk about is when he killed actually the boyfriend or the ex-boyfriend of one of his girlfriends, the character called Benji, and he kind of assumes his identity, right? You know, wears this baseball cap and steals his Patek Calatrava and wears that as part of this casual outfit when he is driving into Hamptons, I think, and he's trying to look like a rich waspy guy. And I was like, well, I know that type. He nailed that character, you know. So that can be a look as well. Couldn't find any pictures of that specifically, but
I just sent you one, Lord. It's a little different. I mean, it's, you know, a celebrity, but it's,
yeah,
you know, it kind of works.
It does
Travis
work.
Scott old time, yeah. Wow.
This is, and I will contrast this with one of the pics that I have on my Instagram, so you can have another look. This is I mean, who doesn't know Travis Scott? I guess he doesn't need any introduction, but he's wearing a white gold Patek World Time.
That's very respectable too, because it's not like an iced out Nautilus or something, some iced out day date.
Not at all. Not at all. And the one that I had in mind that I just posted recently a few days ago was this, right? You know, Andrea Pirlo is in a camp with the national team, and he's also wearing a white gold World Time with that cloisonné hand-drawn, hand-painted world map. And that doesn't look that out of place at all. You know, he's just wearing a polo basically. And it's fine. Right? And it's not really the context, like a rap concert is not really the context where we see a watch based on the Calatrava case. You know, you don't necessarily imagine seeing it on the soccer field either, but somehow it works.
How long does a strap? I've never had a watch on a leather strap. How long does like a Patek leather strap, if you wear it regularly, last? 5
So
years?
I don't want to kick a dead horse. I'm sure you listened to this story already, but I have basically inherited this Submariner from my dad, and it did come with, in addition to the bracelet, it did come with a Rolex leather strap and a Tropic strap as well. The leather strap, I wore it so much on the leather strap, and I sweat like a pig. And it took me 3 years, and one night in a heated moment, it just snapped from right here. On a normal person, on a less beastly and sweaty person, I think it would probably last 5 years. But I got three good years out of it, where I was wearing that watch every other day, basically, on a leather strap. So they have. It depends on what part of the world you are, but in Chicago, for something that you don't wear every single day, you should get good 5 years out of it. Yeah, so it's not so bad.
No, not at all. And they're for like the JLC ones, the Casa Fagliani, or
Yeah.
$500.
Oh no, they're oh the ones that are in Cordovan, like in
Yeah.
basically
On the tribute, right? The ones that come on the tribute.
Yeah, those they don't sell themselves. You have to order it from Casa Fagliano from Argentina. So they do charge $500 for that. It's bespoke and it takes time. It's long. I've never tried it, but they're quite helpful. They respond to emails,
Right.
and you can work with them. And that's $500. But the calfskin version that JLC sells, I think that's either 150 or 195. So it's not 500 at all. And these canvas versions are 195. So it's not prohibitively expensive. Thomas says Locke, Alden, Allen Edmonds, Crockett and Jones, dress boots, ready to go, always American and British. Yeah, American. I don't know. I like some Italian shoes as well. That pair of shoes that I have been wearing since high school, they're Italian and they serve me well, honestly. I like Biver too. Yeah, Jean-Claude Biver is also. Sometimes he's too heated for my liking. I think he shouts a little too much in interviews, so I feel like sometimes reeling back a little bit. But the guy he's a real guru. He knows a lot about the world of watches and how to sell them as well. So Thomas Broadbent, the great design element is built on the knowledge of the Laurent Ferrier will not live forever. The mechanics come from the best Swiss makers so that the watch can be continually serviced. Yeah, one of the great things about the independent brands is either they do everything in-house or they're very transparent, like Chapek, in identifying where each piece comes from. The design is made by this person. The dial comes from Metallem, the movement comes from here. The crown comes from there. They're very specific, and I like that sort of transparency. Thomas says there are no rules. If there are, break them, freedom. JB Wool says, I want a 1948 Leaf Joe Louis card. Okay. I have a nice tribute shirt for Joe Louis that says the brown bomber on it, longest reigning heavyweight champion. Love that guy. Full On John says, couldn't have said it better myself. I relate to Evan on the casual wear. There's something just so old school cool about that not give a fike attitude wearing a 3-bar dress watch in jeans. Absolutely. Perfect. All 29 says, I've been looking at the Tudor Heritage Ranger. That usually comes on a leather strap. Let's see. Tudor Heritage.
Nice watch. I've looked at those too.
Yeah.
It's like the Explorer 1 kind of design cube.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. In that case, it would look great, of course, on a leather strap.
I myself would go for the Black Bay Pro, but
yeah, that looks great actually on a leather strap. Yeah, I would prefer something darker like this. Very cool.
actually, my first watch was a vintage Tudor of the Rose on the dial. I forget what year it was. It's a Prince Oyster Date or something like that. I forget what it was. It was so many years ago, but yeah.
Yeah, 1 second, guys.
So Malcolm, do you remember the Queensland rail fail? Do you remember those days?
Oh, Arch's old videos. I can't remember any of the railroad ones. I know he spoke on. I remember when he posted the original video of him speaking on the news about that. Yeah, and then he brought it up recently in one of his live streams. I remember when he posted the original video. Yeah, and his old intro of the piano music and stuff. It's been quite a few years. I don't have the best memory, but
yeah, he like, you know, did a series on greed and corruption in the Queensland
CCP
rail
after him,
system,
yeah,
and like got himself
in trouble.
nicked by the you know,
Crime and corruption
exactly,
commissioner, something like that.
exactly.
Like he got like letters in the mail and stuff like that.
CCC.
I've actually bought him a couple bottles of a Johnny Walker Red. Should have got the black label, but he said it tastes like shit. But no, I remember those videos. Yeah, I think I've been a fan since I think like 2011, if I can remember correctly.
Wow, okay.
2012. I can't say I've been right from the beginning, but around 2011, 2010.
I'm trying to think of my first memory of his channel, and that isn't it. It's not the rail fail, but it's like he got fired from the waste processing plant. Like
I remember, here's the thing, because I'm pretty young, but I remember watching that with my best friend in high school when we're in a computer lab and we're supposed to be doing like some yearbook class or whatever. And I remember watching that with him, and the teacher was bitching at us to get off YouTube. And I was watching that exact video when it first came out.
wow.
So, yeah.
Oh man, but Malcolm, you're a veteran, because I started watching Archie maybe late 2014 or early 2015.
About the same for me. And I think that's one of my first memories. Like, you know,
Yeah, Archie,
I got fired from the waste processing plant today. They
the different
heard
color
about my
paint,
YouTube videos. What's that?
He said in the video, if I remember correctly, he had a certificate of like brown ink, and they said he had signed something, and they tried to get rid of him for it. And he was using the photocopier for like pictures of either women or watches or something along the sorts, like wasting the company's ink cartridges. But they said he signed something, and he's like, I know I didn't sign that because I have a special ink that I've made, a Cartier ink. Like I've put these different colors together, and it's my special color, and I know I did not sign that paper. And they're framing me, but they still got rid of him, didn't they? So I specifically remember that. It's so many years ago. It was just like 2014 or 2013 or something like that, but it's clear as day. Yeah.
I love the Archie Unemployed series that came out of that. And you know, the funny thing is that you had an inkling at the beginning of it that, you know, is he gonna have a go at this, or is he gonna find the job and just disappear at some point? And he soldiered through and somehow had this renaissance, you know, with the lockdowns and everything, and more power to him, because honestly, he gave me a lot of relief, a lot of entertainment, but also a lot of knowledge over the years. And that's why I actually take it to heart when people in the comments say, like, you know, well, you know, maybe you need a little more comedy, because the way I learned, okay, I'm a nerd, you know, I can learn even cracking open encyclopedias, that's fine. But for most people, and even for me, it's easier to absorb when serious knowledge comes wrapped in this, very friendly, sometimes even offensive banter. It's just easier to consume that way. So that was, for that reason, I always have a very special kind of loyalty to Archie.
His content has changed over the years, like less swearing and whatnot, but then so has the rest of YouTube. I mean, they've been cracking down on that. You want to keep a monetized channel, you can't be dropping F-bombs all over the place. So.
Right. And of course, like, with Archie, it's not just F-bombs, of course.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Slander. Beyond that.
Well, again, I love him the way he is, but you have to also be mindful of the platform and of the medium and of the kind of audience it sometimes attracts, and that's why people sometimes lose the balance, because in a sense, some people do get easily offended. Some people do have a thin skin, but sometimes people also get away with stuff that they can't be saying to your face in real life. Right, so it's hard to strike that sort of balance, and that's why also the internet has given way to a lot of socially awkward and even sociopathic behavior on the part of people, like the way the guy was heckling Mike Tyson, on an app. What do you expect?
I saw that.
That
I think
guy
he wanted that to happen. I think he wanted that to happen personally.
Maybe he was a glutton for punishment. You might be right, but the idea that you think you can get away with harassing a former heavyweight champion, I mean, that's a little too much. And I feel like it's really a certain kind of behavior that's encouraged by being behind the keyboard, and it's not. It's crazy. I don't know why people take that sort of courage, but I think some people just have too much to drink, more liquor than they can hold in front of the screen. That has a lot to do with it as well. I do like that look, by the way, with the Tudor Heritage Ranger, and that's why also I was earlier talking in the show about the Explorer as being a really interesting watch, because it's it has this kind of very classic, almost dressy vibe, but it's also a very established tool watch, of course. And maybe there's like a gap there in the market, for sportier utilitarian watches that are a little smaller. Maybe something like that would make a comeback. Of course, we kind of came full circle and started talking about how traditionally dress watches could be worn with less care and with more casual outfits. But I think there's kind of a gap there in the market. I want some brands to take a stab at that. Something that's not necessarily a dress watch, something that's not fully a tool watch, something mid-sized, between 36, 38. I think that's a blind spot.
No, the versatility is not there. I think that's a good point to hit. Yeah.
That Ranger makes me think of Indiana Jones or something. Yeah, well, Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones had cool boots, and we were just talking about Alden. Alden Indies are great boots. Timmy has a pair. He just got them repaired for the Vegas trip.
I think I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Mm.
Yeah, I can certainly see that Tudor Ranger watch with something like this.
Yeah,
These are
for sure.
cool.
Yeah.
Classical boots.
Are you two going to this Vegas Archie meetup?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. Well, I'm gonna go most certainly to New York, and I just heard that they're gonna come to Los Angeles as well. So I might just end up doing that too. But hey, I mean, it's Archie, and it's not gonna. I don't know if it's gonna happen on a regular basis. You know, it might be first and last time.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I had sent Timmy a super chat there. I'm going to be doing a road trip down the Pacific Coast Highway, and I'm going to, because I'm in Toronto, I'm going to go over to Banff and through Vancouver, and then down through Oregon coastline, Pacific Coast Highway, through Los Angeles, across the Golden Gate Bridge, of course, as well. And then I'm going to make my way to Vegas. So I'm gonna plan my trip around possibly even meeting them in Vegas or whenever he wants.
Nice.
Whatever the itinerary is, when that gets released, I'm going to try to make one of the spots at least.
And what do you think, Evan?
Probably Vegas, but depending on the itinerary, it could be San Francisco, right? So I prefer Vegas, though.
What do you think, EDH?
Yeah, 100%. Somewhere. I don't know where. You know, it's kind of like the first time growing up, I like idolized Tiger Woods, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I finally saw that face in person, it's like a little bit surreal. I need that experience. Like I need to see his face in person.
You need to make sure that he really exists. And not
Yeah, right. 100%. 100%.
Yeah, for sure. You know, the thing is, I love New York, and I think that that's a good spot anyways to visit. So I'm gonna try to make some time, and you know, I'm gonna try to set aside some time in October so I can see him in New York as well. But worst case scenario, certainly I will see him in Los Angeles, Vegas, one or either one or both. We'll see. We'll make sure.
Yeah.
Because it might be a once in a lifetime opportunity, and
yeah, I mean, it's not a, you know, that's a long trek, and the cost of international travel is going to, you know, be quite steep for the next couple of years, I think. So
yeah,
get your kicks now while you can. Lord, I'm gonna shut it down here.
I just wanted, before you leave, I wanted to thank you, Evan, not only for being part of the discussion and jumping on the panel, but also for your contribution behind the scenes. I really appreciate that, guys. If you enjoyed Evan's contribution, please do upvote, and don't forget to spread the word and send the link out on other platforms. Evan, thank you so much.
Yeah, last question for you, Lord. I posted this in the chat the other day. Did you ever watch Kelly Pavlik fight?
I did. Yeah, actually, the Kelly Pavlik fight that I watched was the Bernard Hopkins fight, which everyone was expecting Hopkins to lose. And I'm a huge B-Hop fan. So it wasn't Kelly's best, for sure.
Yeah.
It was kind of where his downfall started, really.
Yeah, he's from the area that I wasn't born or grew up in, but spent a lot of time. I had family up in the Youngstown area, and exactly. And he was unbelievable. I watched him fight live a few times. Just $1 million right hand and a 10-cent head.
That's an interesting way to put it. But one thing that I appreciated about his boxing style, and my coach really liked liked him too, actually. So he tried to kind of model me after Pavlik, because I have kind of monkey arms, right? Means that if I can use my jab effectively and frequently enough, that I can at least stick and move and keep people at bay and do a lot of damage from outside. So Pavlik was someone I watched in that way and studied as well.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun to watch. He was, you know, very unassuming, and he took the boxing world by storm and surprised a lot of people. It was a lot of fun to watch him in the late 2000s.
Yeah, in a way, I think, you know, there's more to appreciate than to be sad about, you know, because at the end of the day, no one was expecting him to reach those heights in the first place. So whether he could or couldn't sustain that success, that's okay. Not many people can, you know. That's why B-Hop was so special, you know, or George Foreman. You know, not everyone becomes a champion in their 40s.
Right, 100%. All right, Lord, thank you. Good talking to you, Malcolm. We'll see you soon.
Nice
all right.
meeting you, Evan.
Later, guys. Have a good night.
Good night, man. Hey, we are actually ready to wrap up, more or less. We are just past 3 hours. Guys, if you have enjoyed this content, please upvote. Don't forget to check out some of my earlier videos. There's a question that I want to answer before we do anything else. I have the previous gen Air King 116900. Which should I try to get from the AD, Explorer 2 or Sub? Let's see. I mean, if you ask me, even though I'm very biased towards the Sub, if we're talking about Explorer Polar, the white dial, after the Air King, I would probably get something like that. But if you're getting the black dial anyways, I would go for the surefire option, which is the Sub. What do you think, Malcolm?
I agree with that. To a person who doesn't know anything about watches, just maybe a girl you're meeting on a date, she may know of Rolex. So if you were to wear the Sub, she might think it's fake because it's like the most faked watch in the world, the black Sub with a date, not the no date, but with a date. So I'd probably get the Polar Explorer 2, especially if he already has an Air King, right? But if he was going to, like you said, if he's going to go for a black dial Explorer 2, I'd probably just go for the Sub.
Yeah. I think, again, Air King is a watch that has its own character, right? You know, if you like it, you like it. And I think it has its own niche within the Rolex lineup. And so is the Polar. So I think that could actually also make an interesting sense in terms of a collection as well, right? So you are basically getting the quirky kind of outlier Rolexes, which have their own place by now in the lineup. So I think a Polar Explorer would be a great add. But if you're getting a black dial, I don't know. I would go with the Sub, and especially Sub no date. That would, I think, balance out also the Air King, right? Air King has too much on the dial. Sub no date, not much at all. You know, it just has that mostly black, classic Rolex aesthetic. Mike the Snake. Okay, I don't know what Mike the Snake has to do with it right now, but we love Mike the Snake. Guys,
one quick last thing I'll say is I actually recently just rewatched the Houdinki John Mayer watch video. I just watched it yesterday. I'm actually seeing John Mayer in concert tomorrow, so
one or two, because they did 2 talking watches. I
watched both, but I the most recent one I watched is number 2, and I only watched it just as a refresher because I had seen it when it first came out. Because I'm seeing him in concert tomorrow in Toronto. So
that's cool. I mean, look, I actually like having people like John Mayer and Ed Sheeran as genuine watch enthusiasts. I think it's a nice thing to see. Of course, you know, with social media, things have blown so out of proportion that it's not even something unique anymore. But when John Mayer basically first came out, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, he gushed out in this pure excitement about his watch collection. I think it was
The
very
first video, yeah.
it was very endearing.
Yeah.
Victor says, interesting. Yeah, I would prefer the Polar Explorer to the black. I like the sub no date, but I was thinking the same thing you just said. Already have the Air King, which is kind of quirky. Yeah, and the Polar would be a cool addition in that way. I agree with what you said about the no date. I would probably just take the first one, which is the Polar Explorer. Guys, if you have enjoyed this content, don't forget to upvote, spread the word about the channel, watch out for my other videos and watch my other videos. It really helps to increase the watch hours as I try to get to 1,000 subscribers and carve that path towards monetization. Until then, if you want to encourage me in creating new and original content, you can always consider a PayPal contribution at lordhellespontv@gmail.com, lordhellespontv@gmail.com. I also have a Cash App, which is $LHVVV, $LHVVV. If you have any questions for me, if you want me to do a personalized video, you know, about the history of a brand, about the genealogy of a particular model, guide you in your next watch purchase, or do a kind of collection review for you where you can jump on the live stream and we can learn more about you, your life, and your lifestyle through your watches, send me an email and we'll arrange something for a nominal contribution on PayPal. I'll be more than happy to dedicate a live stream for you and make a personalized video for you. In either case, I'm ready to close unless something comes through PayPal or Cash App, which actually did. We can go a little longer, or I can go a little longer without holding Malcolm hostage. But
I got all night.
you do? Okay. Corrado very generously contributed again. I really appreciate it. We can go for a little longer, and I think we have a good conversation here with Victor asking the questions. I would probably take the first one, which is to say the first one offered. I think that's the good attitude. You know, as much as I appreciate, you know, I think it helps with the authorized dealers if you are very clear with what you want. And one thing that I think Mike perhaps did wrong, since Jay just brought that up, was like, you know, oh, you know, I'm not expecting anything to happen. That feels a little too defeatist to me. And I feel like maybe that kind of attitude might make the authorized dealer take you a little less seriously as a buyer, perhaps. I would probably do like Victor is doing. You know, I want this one and this other one, perhaps, right? I really want a Polar Explorer 2, but I can't say no to a sub no date, and I will take whatever you can offer me first. Hey, I know how difficult these things are. You know, I know that you probably don't get as much stock where you can offer everyone exactly the watch you want, but I really want to do business with you. You know, I really want to get my first Rolex with you or my second Rolex from you. You know, I want to establish a relationship. Don't give up on it before it even starts. So
when he said that, he already admitted kind of semi-defeat in a way. So he should have just been clear with his objective and saying that I want this, I expect this, right? I'm going to form a relationship with you. It's not going to be a one-sided thing, right? And it's good that he did not even consider and mentioned to not buy a bunch of jewelry first. If I don't know if his AD has jewelry, right? But to go on that endless Seiko V journey, kind of like the Hermes journey, the Birkin journey, right? So buy a bunch of stuff first before you actually get what you want.
No, I mean the reason that's just ridiculous. Big Meat says John Mayer is the one man who could give Zero West true horological credibility. Yeah, well, I mean, I think it would work better than a middling musician whose career completely tanked, and he's now trying to find refuge on alcohol and YouTube. So John Mayer would be much better than that other musician for Zero West, I think, but Zero West still sucks. I don't think John Mayer could sparkle some stardust and bring it any real credibility, but he would do better than failed musicians for sure. Victor M says, yes, very good comments about Mike. Initially, I wanted to explore one from the AD. After being patient, trying to get one, they offered me either the Black Dial Milgauss or Air King, and I chose the Air King. Yeah, you see, there is actually a success story that basically went exactly like we imagined. And yeah, he wanted an Explorer 1, but was fine with either a Milgauss or an Air King, and he got the Air King. And now probably he will end up getting one of these, whether it's Explorer 2 or a sub. Yeah, Bezels, better than failed musicians. Yes, middling failed musicians, in fact, but it's okay. It's just a small, nuanced distinction. All 21 and Jay laughing at Meech. Meech, why don't you jump on, man? Why are you holding back tonight? So as you're trying to rebuild your collection, Malcolm?
Yeah.
What do you wanna go for next? Are you just saving up for something big, or are you gonna try to
see? What I've been wanting for a while is I wanted to get the Explorer 2 Polar. I want 216 570. I don't want the one before that, because I want the newer bracelet, the newer clasp style, called the Glide Lock, I believe. I don't know if I remember correctly, the Glide Lock. Even if it was like 2015, it doesn't have to be really, really new. It doesn't have to be like a 2020, 2019. But maybe possibly would go for like I have an inkling for a Breitling Navitimer 806, like a real vintage one with the twin wings on it. They also have an AOPA dial too, American Pilots Owners Association or something like that. I had a band director that had the same watch, and I always had an inkling for it.
So maybe one of these.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the Breitling would be a lot cheaper. I'd get 3 of them for that price, but especially Canadian too, you get really jacked up on the price.
And what was the other one? Breitling?
A Navitimer 806. I think they call it the twin wing. Like a 1963 or 1967, in that time frame, like vintage. Some really nice tropical dials that they have.
Something like this, or am I? Because
well,
I'm a little.
Newer. I could share a link with you here. I'll find one here. Yeah. So one similar to the one I just shared there.
Wait, what did I click there? Ah, yeah, this is very nice. Let's see. Twin jets.
Yeah. And then they also have an Aopa one, which has more of like a wing kind of design above Breitling, but this is the particular one that I really want.
Yeah, this is nice. Yeah,
It
not
is
my
a
cup.
slide rule. It's basically like a vintage calculator, almost calculator watch, and a lot of pilots use them. So
I actually love the lugs on this one. Love the case for sure. Look at that. It's beautiful.
and you can get them for pretty cheap. I actually found one for like $3,800, but the case was mutilated. It looked terrible. So, but yeah, 4,500 around there, Canadian, not US. So you get them pretty cheap, relatively compared to other watches, other pilot watches.
I think that's always a good idea. You know, get the best example, the one in the best condition that you can afford. You know, wait for the right one. Even though it might seem like a good deal at the time, you know, if you're not happy with the case, if you're not happy with the dial, don't pull the trigger yet. Get the best example that your money can afford.
I was gonna pull the trigger on one that it just had too much damage on the left side, not where on the left side, not where the pushers are. It looked like someone tried to take off the case back, and it looked terrible. So I didn't pull the trigger, and it was like $3,850, and some of them are 5,000-6,000 Canadian. I saw one with a Saudi Prince dial, which was pretty rare. Not dial, case back. And a really tropical gilt on the dial too, but it was like closer to 8,000-9,000. So the prices really range. You could get some on Fleabay for pretty cheap on auction. So
yeah, eBay gets a very bad rep, but I think if you know exactly what you're looking for, if you have already educated yourself in looking for particular examples, if you have handled real life examples and you know what to look for, what to recognize, eBay can still be good. Still, you tread with care. You pay with PayPal, so you can charge it back if the guy is being difficult and doesn't accept returns, if the watch is not as promised. But yeah, eBay can be still a great place for good deals. I think Explorer 2 is easy link. Victor M says, Victor M, you just subscribed to the channel. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Big Meech, speaking of failed musicians, didn't Tudor have Lady Gaga and Ed Sheeran as brand ambassadors? Lady Gaga and David Beckham, for sure. Ed Sheeran, I think so. Ed Sheeran too. I mean, look, I don't really enjoy Lady Gaga and Ed Sheeran's music, to be fair, but you can't call them failed musicians. These people make shitload of money from music. How can you call that failed? I would love to.
From not my particular taste either, but still not failed by any means.
I would love to fail that way, honestly. If they're failing in their line of work, I would love to fail in the same way in my line of work. It seems to be doing wonders to them. But yeah, look, it has to work somehow. Gégé Lecoutre has been trying so hard finding brand ambassadors, and somehow it just doesn't click. Like they have had Benedict Cumberbatch both as Doctor Strange and outside of that role as a brand ambassador. They just released a new short movie with him wearing the Polaris Perpetual. And I don't know, it just doesn't. Polaris is just not that exciting or innovative or beautiful or attractive as a design. It's not gonna just gain some new life just because you have an ambassador. Whereas I think with Tudor, first of all, Lady Gaga is a great ambassador for what we were talking about earlier, like a woman wearing what is traditionally understood to be a man's sports watch, and she can pull it off. Beckham, of course, has, I think he's sometimes underrated as a footballer because of his star power. He was pretty decent in his time, but he always had that, had that appeal outside of the field as well. So he's great for them. And Ed Sheeran, I don't know what to say. I guess he's likable, but these somehow work. Ed Sheeran maybe less so, but Lady Gaga and Beckham actually work quite well as Tudor ambassadors, I have to say.
Big Meech says Lady Gaga got dropped from Tudor, apparently.
Maybe it's because she signed with Tiffany. That can be it. I think she's now endorsed by Tiffany's, for jewelry and watches, but I don't know if she is dropped, but could be. Sometimes it just doesn't click. I mean, I'm gonna share some visuals from this Benedict Cumberbatch thing. First of all, that mustache is not gonna sell any watches, man. Shave that off, please.
Yeah.
But joking aside, yeah, man, Polaris just doesn't hit it for me. Again, I'm a huge fanboy for this brand. Don't take me wrong, but this is one design that never.
See, the thing that ruins it for me is the case shape. It feels overall, dare I say, basic. Just there's nothing kind of unique about the case shape.
Right.
Yeah, it's just, and even the dials of the Marin are there. I don't know. It gives me like Citizen vibes, like a Citizen watch.
Yeah, the only interesting thing about it is the inner bezel, basically. And beyond that, like you said, it just looks like any other. This is the alarm version, of course, so there's that. But
like from a distance, if someone didn't know watches, even if they know watches, if they don't know JLC, then they might think that's like a Citizen Eco Dive or something cheesy. So, I mean, not that you should care what other people think, but it's just not really my taste myself.
And again, like, a Citizen is a Citizen, a Seiko is a Seiko, right? It's just fine, because that's a good example of what you can get.
My grandfather, as his 25-year retirement gift, 25 years of service for the Conservation Authority on Ontario, got a Citizen Eco Dive. And I said to him, like, well, they're cheap fikers. They should have got you at least a Tudor. And he doesn't know anything about watches, but like a Citizen, really? Like, I mean, come on. They engraved the back and everything. It's like my grandma's saying, oh, this is going to be your watch one day, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, yeah, well, they could have got him a Tudor for what it's worth, right? So,
of course. But yeah, then again, for something like this, if you're paying, look at the retail price. Of course, you can get it much cheaper in the secondary market. But if you are already spending that kind of money, you want something that's more, that has its own character. And I know they're trying to say Polaris has that as well, with Memovox and the whole alarm watch thing. But yeah, for me, it just doesn't hit me. It doesn't hit me in the same way. This is one model that I never got used to. I love the master control. I obviously love the reverso. But the Polaris, that perpetual calendar is great, of course, but you don't just buy a watch for the movement inside it. Something else has to excite you as well.
There's so many aspects besides the movement. It's heritage, the brand, if it speaks to you. Is it an aviation watch? Is it a diving watch? Is it more exploration, but also has a good diving depth, right? There's too many aspects to just be worrying about necessarily the movement, right? There's too many aspects to consider when purchasing a watch.
Absolutely. The Big Meat says JLC needs an old rich white man to represent their brand. Someone like Carter Schmidt. Well, I mean, I get the joke, but I think that's the point. JLC doesn't need actually that kind of guy, because JLC already sells enough watches to old rich white man. I think they should try something a little more. Again, I actually love Benedict Cumberbatch as an actor, don't take me wrong, but I think they should take a little more of a challenge and maybe go for someone unexpected. Because you can, for me, it was really a surprise when I saw Jay-Z wearing a pink gold reverso with the white dial. I was like, okay, this guy must have someone around him who advises him. Because I know he was a huge fan always of Audemars Piguet and the Royal Oaks for a long time, and the brand actually was personally connected with him. But JLC doesn't have that kind of relationship. But it should be someone that you don't immediately associate with the brand. JLC can find 24 of polo players to wear a reverso. JLC can find 5 different Benedict Cumberbatches to wear their Polaris, but they should try to find maybe someone like Jay-Z, someone like Travis Scott. They can't
even go beyond that, like beyond rappers. They could go pop star, right? Like Ariana Grande or someone else like that. Like you never expect them to be wearing that, but they could go that route.
Gracias says, love the Family Guy reference. Thank you, man. Thank you. J617, who the fuck gets dropped from Chuda? Even the Swiss bike team has a Chuda sponsorship, and I've never, ever heard of them. Wait, let me see. Before we close, I want to show that Jay-Z pick. He was wearing the pink gold reverso. Love the name of the article too. Jay-Z's new pink gold Gégé Lecoultre reverso is big pimpin'. Love that song. But there you go, and absolute flex. Look what he did.
Yeah.
He basically had something engraved. I can't quite see it, but wore it basically on the reverse side. And yeah, that's an amazing watch, and he's wearing it in the right way, in the right context, really. An ultra thin precious metal 2-hand watch. What better occasion than black tie? That's very classy. Yeah. Well, yeah, I like seeing. Again, I like seeing these sorts of in the know kind of watches in unexpected places. Guys, we have been here for 3 hours and a half, and we had some new faces, some fresh talent on the stream today, which I think was really exciting for me, like our Viscount Malcolm. And I love the fact that people can poke fun at this as much as I do, take on, like we have the Pontiff, we have a Lord, we have a Viscount. I'm sure we will get a Baron at some point, and we should take ourselves less seriously, and I think it's all fun and games. I love that Evan dropped by, EDH, and RAG dropped by as well. A lot of interesting people in the chat, as always. all the usual regulars as well as some new faces too. So nice to see all of you. Thank you again for your contributions, for all the questions, all the requests, everything that you do in the chat to bring the conversation forward. Thank you to my panelists again. Guys, don't forget to upvote. Don't forget to subscribe. If you haven't already, spread the word, share the link on other platforms. It really helps. I'm inching closer to that goal of 1,000 subscribers every day, and it wouldn't have been possible without you. If you want to encourage me further until that day, feel free to make a PayPal contribution at lordhellespontv@gmail.com, lordhellespontv@gmail.com. And I have a Cash App too, which is $LHVVV, $LHVVV. Nice. Thank you so much, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care.